Elf I am the protagonist template, Invincible Chapter 321 to 340. Chapter 321. I caught up, but I didn't catch up completely. Please order. The body is almost the same as Cheomung, but it has a dark and low tone. Above the left shoulder, there is an orange spar protruding, as if it was artificially inlaid, and the end of the long tail is also gradient. Orange color. Such a form is the most well-known dark Mewtwo among the alien Mewtwo's. At this moment, this alien Mewtwo with an ugly face stopped in front of the curtain that appeared to be stimulated. Seeing that the space where the line of sight intersects is shrinking, and now there is only a space crack the size of a grinding disc, the complexion sank. Clearly it has caught up, but not quite. I don't know how the curtain in front of me was formed. It just rushed down, but it failed to break through it. Of course, it is impossible for this thing to stop it, and the Dark Super Dream has this confidence. But the current situation. Even if it breaks through the curtain, I'm afraid it won't catch up with the shrinking space crack in the curtain. It really makes me unhappy. Dark Cheomung looked at the human who was staring straight at him without hesitation. A gloom flashed in the dark purple pupils, and the corner of his mouth suddenly cracked into a smirk. Raising his right arm and holding it with 3 fingers, the purple-black energy particles O2 quickly condensed in the palm of his hand, turning into a dark energy sphere and rapidly expanding. Just in the blink of an eye. Next moment, a huge energy sphere with a diameter of hundreds of meters was suddenly smashed by Mewtwo. Dark End Nova. It was as if a lead ball hit the balloon and fell deeply into it for a few seconds. The curtain on the periphery of Melamel Island suddenly shattered like a bubble. And the final dark nova that broke through the curtain fell on the ground with almost no loss. Boom! The terrifying energy exploded in an instant, and its vast impact instantly drowned the entire island. The final scene of the closing of the space-time rift. It's like space is stretched. The line of sight was lifted up infinitely. Under the impact of the purple-black energy, the entire Melamel Island was torn apart like a shattered puzzle. The ground was raging, the tide was overflowing, and it was a doomsday. Baizi's pupils trembled violently. He subconsciously hugged Lucimine's head and buried her in his arms, not letting her see the last scene. The scene of destruction in the hometown of Melamel Island. Darkness's super dream. I remember it. The cold light in Baizi's eyes flashed away. Although he doesn't have any special feelings for Melamel Island in another world. But here. After all, it is the hometown of Rusumanai and little Kapu Mingming. With such an obvious provocative demonstration of Dark Super Dream, he couldn't pretend to be like a shrunken turtle and pretend that nothing had happened. This account, sooner or later, he will find the Dark Cheomung to figure it out. But, just as he guessed, this alien Dark Super Dream from another world. Super strong. Race. Dark Mewtwo original form, Y form, inactive, X form. Attribute. Super evil. Characteristics. Pressure, tension, Monty. Level. Level 1 God Limit, level 119 to 120. Potential. Creation blessed by Dark Resonance Stone. HP. 106, Attack, 110, Defense, 90, Special Attack, 154, Special Defense, 90, Speed, 130. Exclusive Skills. Final Dark Nova, Spirit Break. Skills. Provocation, Trickery, Deception, Sharpening, Mind Power, Immobilization, High-Speed Stars, Primordial Power, Spiritual Blade, Mysterious Guardian, Instant Amnesia, Wave Missile, Spiritual Strong Mind. Prop. Dark Resonance Stone. Open Black Lens Bracket Condition. Good Close Black Lens Bracket. Law Comprehension. 100% Super Energy, 100% Evil. Introduction. Combining dreams, countless elves, and the Dark Resonance Stone from alien planets, the extremely evil gene elves have long been in the field of creation, and they can break through at any time. You. In his mind, he recalled the data panel that he had obtained when he glanced at it before, and Baizi's blue pupils flickered for a while. No doubt. This dark super dream is the strongest he has ever seen. To be honest, Baizi at this stage, even if he reassembles all his handheld, legendary combat power and some friends, he is probably not the opponent of this dark super dream. After all, reaching the level of the top legend, every step forward is a world of difference. Not to mention the dark super dream, this is almost a leap across the class. Moreover, he finally understood why the rocket team in the other world was able to suppress the entire Elf Alliance by itself. Baizi guessed that the reason why the Elf Alliance in another world was still able to form a stalemate with Team Rocket. I'm afraid this is also the power of other legends. Moreover, at least there are multiple high-level legends, even top-level legends. However, once the Dark Super Dream officially breaks through the creation field, I am afraid this fragile balance will be broken. At that time, who can stop the Dark Super Dream? The full body of the glorious god Nekroz Ma. Wuji Tai that completes the Dark Night. It's still the creator god of the elf world, Arceus. I was pondering in my heart. Suddenly, 450 was accompanied by a weightless feeling of falling and the sound of whistling in his ears, and the scene in his eyes also evolved into a blue sky and white clouds. Baizi quickly restrained his thoughts and wrapped his white thoughts, turned his body, and headed towards the corner of the familiar and unfamiliar island below. Is this the world you live in? With a reddish face, Rusumanai broke free from Baizi's arms, stroked the hair around her ears, and asked around. For some reason, the scenery of this southern country always gave her an inexplicable sense of familiarity. It can be said yes or it can be no. Baizi touched his chin and replied uncertainly. Ah. Lushamanai was suddenly confused by Baizi Yuan. Yes, no, there is no way to say yes or no. Seeing Lushamanai's confused appearance, Baizi smiled dotingly and was about to explain. Susu, behind him, the sound of trembling grass and trees suddenly sounded. Who? Chapter 322. Perception Sharing, Different Bodies Concentric. Yeah. It seemed that he was frightened by Baizi's loud shout. The person in the grass was not able to stand firm. He staggered forward 2 steps, and then fell to the ground and bowed at Baizi's feet. Baizi. No, girl, why do you have to give this gift? Yes, this peeping person hiding in the grass is indeed a girl's family. The long blonde hair that is very similar to Rusumin is tied into a ponytail and scattered behind the head, and the exposed jade ears are slightly red. Well, it seems that she is also deeply shy about her voyeurism. Baizi glanced at the blonde girl who was kneeling down and bowing in a big salute, and saw that the other party was trying to curl up as much as possible, but she just refused to get up. Somehow. Suddenly, the bad taste of wanting to make fun of the other party arises. Be flat, he said. However, Baizi's words had just fallen, and Lusamine, who was beside him, gave Baizi a sullen look, and took the initiative to step up to help the woman who suddenly appeared, but she had an inexplicable affection for her. Are you all right? Also, you. At this point, Rusamine couldn't speak anymore. Beneath the light golden ponytail with astonishing volume, is a delicate and attractive face, with slender eyebrows and jade-like pupils complementing each other. Although his face was stained with a bit of gray, he looked pitiful like an ostrich. But this is clearly what she looks like. You. Lushamanai's mouth was a little dry. Although she was told that she was going to a parallel world, she never thought that soon after arriving, she would meet herself in a parallel world. Interesting, did you meet another Rusamine directly? And Baizi looked at this with a smile and looked at this and himself. Rusamanai, the cute version of the cute girl who had undergone the apocalypse and had a completely different awe-inspiring attitude, and a smile raised at the corners of his mouth. She looks exactly like the cold and glamorous young woman in the future version, 2 people. Coastal estate, within the luxurious living room. Tilda. Looking at the various pastries and 2 cups of hot black tea on the opposite side of the long table, and then looking at the glass of white water in front of him, Baizi smiled dumbly. Unexpectedly, when Rusamanai was young, she was quite vengeful. Guessed, I'm really rude. The middle-aged gentleman with a tray beside him said apologetically, although he also felt that it was rude, but the eldest lady insisted on doing this, and it was not within his control as a housekeeper. It doesn't matter, I don't care about little girls. Baizi shook his head with a smile, and at the same time gestured with his eyes to the slightly wrinkled Rusamin eye. Well, his Rusamin is a little bit more restless. Okay, I think the two of you should have a lot of topics to talk about, so I won't bother, go out for a walk, and come back in a while. Baizi stepped forward, and under the shy and complicated eyes of the main world Rusamin, he kissed Lusamin's Yinghuang, and under the accusing eyes of the other party, he got up and walked out of the house. The main world Rusamin. Well, it always feels a bit confusing to call it that. The main world's Rusaminai is just a few years younger than Baizi's Lusamin, so let's call it Xiaolu for the time being. Xiaolu subconsciously licked her tongue as if her mouth was dry, then she was suddenly startled, and hurriedly picked up the black tea at the table and drank it in one breath. Putting down the teacup, when he looked up, he suddenly met Lusamin's quiet eyes. Sister, elder sister, why are you looking at me like this? Lusha, I'll call you Xiaolu. Lu Shamanai held her chin with one hand, an invisible aura that made Xiaolu, who is a parallel time-space equivalent, sit up subconsciously. Xiaolu, although there is a special connection between you and me, Baizi is irreplaceable to me. At this moment, Rusamanai's tone was serious and decisive. I am willing to apologize to him for what happened before, but I will not allow anyone, even myself, to do anything against him. If you really don't welcome to Baizi, then I'm sorry, our relationship can stop here. No, it's not like this. Xiaolu hurriedly stood up, waving both hands in veto. The family background is superior, and the appearance is good. Perhaps because she was too good, she had no friends of the same age since she was a child, and the people she knew were either scholars who were much older than her, or researchers who belonged to her father's research institute. For the first time, Rusamanai, the self in this other world, made her feel like a friend. Therefore, although they have only known each other for less than half a day, Xiaolu is quite concerned about Lusamin. That's why. Hearing the ultimatum of Rusamanai that was almost equivalent to breaking up the friendship, she seemed so panicked. She really didn't want to lose this precious and only friendship. After weighing the pros and cons, Xiaolu finally felt that she was telling the truth. Sister, when you were with me, didn't you feel any special feeling? Special feeling? Rusamanai was confused, and when she looked up, she found that Xiaolu's eyes were misty and her face was flushed, and the corners of her mouth twitched. He moved back a little calmly and advised, well, Xiaolu, although I don't discriminate against this special orientation, but I have no idea about this at all. I love Baizi very much, do you understand? Huh? Xiaolu suddenly got a question mark on her head. I said this, what does it have to do with your love for Baizi? For no reason, why suddenly sprinkle Duli's dog food? I have eaten very much. JPG. Xiaolu's brain was a little short-circuited, but soon, she came back to it, blushing, and the heat seemed to be steaming from the top of her head. That's not what I meant. Forget it, I'm telling the truth. Let's be honest. Xiaolu closed her eyes and said loudly with a shattered expression, I seem to be able to feel everything that happened to you. Embrace, hug, pick, kiss, whatever. Huh. This time, it was Lusamanai's turn to be dumbfounded. What is this? Perception sharing, different bodies concentric. Chapter 323. You are so rushing for business, does Karachi know? Please complete the order. Come out. Leaving the manor of little Rusamanai's family, passing through the dense forest, and standing in a clearing in the forest, Baizi put one hand in his pocket and shouted to the clearing as if he was defenseless. Next second, Zilla with a flash of lightning, Kapu Mingming's familiar figure reappeared in front of Baizi's eyes. It's you. Baizi waved his hand as if he was relieved, and with a rustling sound, a slender white shadow suddenly appeared beside Baizi like a teleportation. He tapped into the model-like high-heeled tentacles to separate Baizi and Kapu Mingming, intentionally or unintentionally. Don't worry, Kapu, Mingming is not an enemy. I can get to know you thanks to him. Baizi stepped forward, pulled Philomelody behind him, and said with a sincere face. It would be a lie to say that there is no resentment in your heart. After all, you will be sent to another world to complete the mission, without saying a word. This seemingly trial-like approach, in Baizi's eyes, is to force the will applied to oneself. To the extent that Baizi was careful, he had long remembered this enemy in the small notebooks in his heart. Not reporting now. It's just because he can't beat the opponent. 450. It is not too late for a gentleman to take revenge. When I return to the original time and space and get back all my combat power, I will definitely find an opportunity to repay and report you. The careful Baizi secretly murmured in his heart, but his face still had a stern expression on his face, and asked, Kapu, Mingming, you led me out, do you want to give me any reward? Kapu, Mingming tilted his head, like it was the first time he had seen such a cheeky human being. Afterwards, it completely ignored Baizi's words, and in the sharp corner of the arm, it pointed towards a pokeball on Baizi's waist. Looking down the direction, Baizi suddenly felt a little surprised. He simply took off one of the luxury balls and turned on the button. The strange-colored little Kapu, Mingming suddenly appeared in front of one person and one pet. The little guy was obviously in his sleep, when he was suddenly called out and wiped his eyes in confusion. After waking up, it first glanced curiously at Kapu, Mingming, whom it wanted very much. Afterwards, after discovering Baizi, his eyes suddenly flew towards him. Begging for a hug. JPG. Baizi hugged the little guy in his arms, and skillfully took out an electric energy cube from his pocket and handed it to the little guy in his arms. Cuckoo. Xiao Kapu, Mingming smiled happily, first rubbed Baizi's chin with his crown affectionately, and then took the energy cube, and Bia nibbled at it. Originally, Baizi thought that Kapu, Mingming would ask him about the origin of the little guy or something. But to his surprise, Kapu, Mingming just glanced at the strange-colored little Kapu, Mingming in Baizi's arms, and he looked like he had already decided something. He turned around and was ready to leave. Oh, wait. Baizi hurriedly stopped Kapu, Mingming, and after the other party stopped, he asked the question that he was most concerned about. Kapu, Mingming, I don't know if you know my origin, but can you see me as well? For the sake of doing you a small favor, help me find a pink elf that looks like this. Saying that, Baizi used his mind power to manifest Shirabi's form in midair. Kapu, Mingming turned his head. After looking at the Shirabi that Baizi made with his mind power, he stared at Baizi for a while, and suddenly threw something out. Subsequently, Crack-woo. Kacha, accompanied by a melodious and long shout, a thunderbolt from the clear sky suddenly resounded, and a burst of golden lightning illuminated everything around. Baizi subconsciously covered his eyes. When he came back to his senses, the figure of Kapu, Mingming had disappeared. In the palm of his hand, a quaint pendant full of southern style and similar to a souvenir lay quietly on it. This thing is. Baizi looked at the simple pendant in his hand, flipped through it for a while, and his expression was a little confused. The main body of the pendant is a wooden structure composed of 4 colored triangles of yellow, red, pink and purple. The upper part is a knotted rope with 4 beads of the same color, and the lower part is 2 pairs of rope spikes. Among them, the yellow triangle painting and the beads of the same color seem to be painted with fluorescent light, exuding a faint yellow light. The other 3 pairs of painted and beaded strings are clearly contrasted and dull. This thing is undoubtedly left by Kapu, Mingming. He just asked a question, why did you leave this thing for me? Baizi scratched his head helplessly. To be honest, he hated riddle people the most. Good thing. Fortunately I have the most direct decryption method. With a confident smile, Baizi set his eyes on the pendant in his hand, and the brilliance that no one could see suddenly appeared from the bottom of his eyes. Speaking of which, since the Battle of King Evil Eater, his ability to perceive weaknesses seems to have been obtained. Complete adaptation. After wearing the magic ceiling sunglasses for several months, I can finally take them off. Now, lying in his pocket. Closer to home. After Baizeji's investigation, Baizi soon got the information he wanted from it, the certificate of the island tour. Those who obtain this will complete the test of the island tour, and will receive the blessings of the four gods. Wish a tour of the islands. Baizi's expression was a little puzzled. He didn't know much about the Sun and Moon chapters, and most of them were limited to the chapters in anime TV. The Archipelago Tour. This is a test of regional characteristics that is analogous to other real gym battles. When do we need this so-called island tour certificate? And isn't the island tour the way to get the Z bracelet and the Z pure crystal? According to the information obtained from the investigation, there is still the blessing and wishing function of the beast. You guys are so stealing business, does Karachi know? Chapter 324. The King of the Islands Who Doubt Life, Seeking Full Order. Mellow Melody Island. Middle. Remnants of War. What's the matter? An old man with a gray pineapple head, white eyebrows and angry beard, an island-style blouse, shorts, sandals, and a heavy beaded rope wrapped around his waist, the old man who was sitting cross-legged under the altar praying. Expression. His name is Hara. He is a training specialist who is proficient in martial arts, and he is also the current king of the island, on Melamel Island. The so-called king of the island is a regional position unique to the Alola region, and is the supreme leader in charge of governing the island under his command. To put it simply, it is somewhat similar to the champions of the four heavenly kings in other regions, and also holds the position of the president of some alliances. However, these powers and functions are limited to the scope of the island. And the reason why Hara was so surprised was entirely because of the mutation of the altar he sat on. The stone sculpture in the center of the altar glows with a gleaming yellow light, and the wall of the ruins facing it is also lit up, reflecting the primitive lines similar to lightning. Stone statues blooming with light means that a new generation of qualified candidates to challenge the island tour has been selected, and the lightning sacrificial pattern of the war relics is lit up, which means that the challenge of Melamel Island has been completed. Hala muttered like a plural, but her expression became more and more confused. Those who can cause the ruins to change must be the challengers who are personally selected by the Patronus for the Archipelago Tour. But I don't even know who the challenger is. How can the challenge of Melamel Island be completed? At this time, Hala looked suspicious of life. The final test of each island, from ancient times to the present, whether it is an ordinary tour of the islands or initiated by the patron saint, requires a certificate of the tour of the islands, and the true tour of the islands that can light up the ruins is all. The great trial of the elf battle with the island king and island queen who govern the island. But now, he doesn't even know who the challenger is. How come the challenge on this island has already been completed? Could it be that he is a fake king of the island? Hala suddenly fell into deep self-doubt. Unlike Hala, who fell into self-doubt, the island kings of the other three islands also learned about the changes in the ruins they guarded. They, who were not lit up with sacrificial patterns like the remnants of the war, focused their attention on this unknown challenger. After all, in addition to the inauguration test of the first island king of each island, the island tour initiated by the patron saint was the only one who, many years ago, in order to quell the anger of the patron god, the island kings of each island jointly participated in the challenge. One by one. And this time, Zero who is this sudden challenger to the Archipelago Tour. So, my Archipelago Tour challenge initiated by Kapu, Mingming is one of the few in the history of Alola. Leaning on the sofa in the living room, Baizi raised a single finger, gently rotating the island tour certificate as an ordinary pendant. His eyes flicked over to the two Rusamines who were like twins. When he came back, he found out that something he didn't know had happened between the two little girls. Anyway, the atmosphere was a bit weird. However, he didn't pay much attention to this, and as soon as he thought about it, he focused his attention on the challenge of the archipelago tour. After all, this matter is related to whether he can safely return to the original time and space. It is indeed a handful. Subconsciously avoiding Baizi's gaze, little Rusuminai said as if she was studying. According to the records in the record of the tour, only the first island owner of each island can truly be considered to have completed the tour of the islands. And the rest are just tournaments with similar templates. Quote, even the challenge of the archipelago tour that quelled the anger of the patron saint more than 10 years ago was a challenge that the 4 kings of the archipelago combined with many trainers barely completed. So, this challenge is not only rare, but also difficult to complete. Quite a lot. Baizi raised his eyebrows. The king of the islands in Alola is almost equal to the seat of the 4 heavenly kings in other regions. Even if there is no formal alliance, the average strength may be weak, but no matter how weak, it is still the top elite trainer in a region. With the unique Z movement, it is not necessarily weaker than the general regional 4 kings. But even so, it is necessary to unite with many elite trainers to reluctantly complete the archipelago tour. It is conceivable that the difficulty of this island tour will never be like a playful test in anime TV. 0. For flowers. Interesting. Thinking of this, Baizi actually aroused his interest in climbing the peak as a trainer. With a flick of his fingers, he grabbed the island tour certificate into the palm of his hand. According to the records in the Chronicle of the Tour, the final, great trial, of each island in the Tour of the Islands is generally the easiest part of the tour, and the difficulty can be imagined. At this time, Xiaolu Samina also gave a positive answer. A subconscious glance. Huh. Doo-doo mouth, unhappy. JPG. Baizi was stunned when he heard the words, and looked at the only lit yellow part on the wooden sign, and suddenly he was a little stunned. Does the lit part represent the completed part? However, Kapu, Mingming, this is the experience in another world, counted as the part of the Melamel Island part of the island tour that it is responsible for. Baizi pondered in his heart. Immediately, he restrained his thoughts, stood up and said, it's not too late, I need to finish the tour as soon as possible. Lusamine, please lead the way, let's start the second trial. Ah, why should I? Little Rusuminai was stunned when she heard the words, and was about to refuse when Baizi pushed him back. Thank you, I'm not calling you. In an instant, the pretty face of little Rusuminai was instantly flushed. If you don't go, you won't go. I don't care about it. Baizi replied with a disdainful smile. A mere arrogant blonde, a blonde and a slobber, this is a basic skill. Not going. If you don't go, I nod the skin of your feet. It is so certain. JPG. Several. Chapter 325. The real difficulty of the tour test. In the end, little Rusuminai still didn't give Baizi a chance to bite the skin of her feet. Facing Baizi's contemptuous gaze, he forced himself to argue along the way. What? I didn't go to the parade at all, I just wanted to accompany my sister. What? You can go, why can't I go? What? Akara Island is not your home, and so on. Lusamine was stunned for a while. Laugh. However, from the mouth of a shameless blonde dog, it was also indicated that the destination of this trip. It was Akara Island, which is located to the east of Meromal Island. Akara Island, located in the northeast of the Alola region, has the most complex and varied geographical environment in the Alola region. It is also an island with the richest test stage. It has 3 geographical locations, 4 or 5, where the Overlord Elves live, namely the Gurgling Hill, the Vera Volcano and the Shade Jungle. And the destination of their trip is the tropical rainforest located in the northwest of Akara Island, the Shade Jungle. With little Rusuminai, a local rich woman accompanying her, everything was naturally much more convenient and quicker. After contacting the Island King of Akara Island in advance, he took the private aircraft in the manor directly. Within a few minutes, a few people rushed to the periphery of the shady jungle. Grandpa Carl. After getting off the plane, little Rusuminai smiled and waved to the old man not far away. The contrast between the dark brown skin and the full head of hair is very strong. He is tall, at least 1.9 meters or more, and his upper body is full of peculiar lines. And the most striking thing is the red fiery hair on his forehead, temples, and eyebrows, like maple leaves. Gives an inexplicable sense of pride. He is the king of the island of Akara today, Carl. Also in TV anime, as a member of the protagonist group, Kaki, the late grandfather. This message, Baizi extracted from his mind the moment he saw the old man. Grandpa Carl. The subtle murmur sounded beside him. Baizi turned his head, looked at the slightly hazy expression of Lusamine by his side, stretched out his hand, and gently pulled up Lusamine's catkin. Baizi, I'm fine. Lusha Manai's expression was clear. She smiled softly at Baizi, shook her head and whispered. In the apocalypse, she had long since cultivated a tenacious mind that was completely different from that of little Rusamanai. Haha tilde it's little Rusaminai. Mr. Carl's heroic voice resounded in the four fields. After responding, he just opened his mouth and looked at Baizi behind the little Rusamine. This one is the challenger who started the tour of the islands, right? Really? Halfway through. Mr. Carl's tone was stagnant, his eyes widened. This. The old man looked at Rusamanai next to Baizi, rubbed his eyes subconsciously, glanced again, and then inspected the two Rusamines several times. Only then did he swallow his spit, and turned his eyes to the little Rusamanai who had a more familiar temperament. Little Rusamine, when did you have a twin sister? Or a sister? She is. Master Carl, I am the challenger this time, Baizi. Baizi took a step up and interrupted. The parallel time and space is too much trouble to explain. He doesn't want to waste time on explaining and reminiscing. Can we talk about the old things later? I hope to start the challenge of the archipelago tour as soon as possible. I'm sorry. Little Lusamine pursed her lips, blinked her eyes, and said nothing more. Mr. Carl caressed the back of his head and said with a smile, Haha, that's what I said. It's really important. As he spoke, he looked straight, took out a wooden sign in his hand, and stated cherishly, the test of the tour of Akara Island was promulgated by the patron saint Kapu deity. To be honest, if this test is handed over to I'm afraid I don't have a clue. And this is also a problem that has plagued this Akara Island, a historical problem for 100 years. Baizi's expression became solemn. To be able to deter an island king, and to haunt Akara Island for hundreds of years. I am afraid that this test is really not something that can be done easily. Master Carr, please say it. Mr. Carl nodded solemnly and said solemnly, the test of the tour of Akara Island is to brew a sweet fruit wine that can contain all the fruits of the shade jungle, and attract the arrival of Kapu, Dai. Baizi blinked, seeing that Mr. Carl had put away the wooden sign, and suddenly asked in a little astonishment, then what? Mr. Carl shook his head, there is no then, that's all. This is really an interesting test, Baizi said dryly. The historical problem that has plagued Akara for hundreds of years. He originally thought it was a big issue related to the ecological security of the entire island. Result. That's it. After working for a long time, with a serious look on his face, the result is just to make a wine. Even the so-called wine that contains all the fruits of the shade jungle, it only takes more time at most. It is used for collecting ingredients and matching debugging. Is it hard? It is indeed difficult. But the main difficulty is the complexity of the work 1.7 sequence, which is completely different from what he thought at the beginning. Baizi felt deeply deceived. Such a test simply blinded his sense of expectation. Mr. Carl also seemed to see Baizi's disappointment, and suddenly smiled. Ha, don't underestimate this tour test. It's really difficult, but it's not about how to make wine. P.S. Excuse me, is the archipelago tour going to end quickly? Chapter 326. The Special Wind Track, Kapu Dai. The difficulty of this tour test is indeed not above the link of brewing. As a senior cultivator with advanced cooking skills, The only difficulty in blending fruit wine is really only collecting the fruit of the entire shaded jungle, which obviously requires a lot of time to find and screen the hard work. But this Philomelas soon made him understand what it means to be charming and what it means. The power of licking a dog is infinite. In the core area of the green clumps, there is a field full of fragrant flowers. At this time, the Philomelody was sitting like a queen in a stone chair with obvious nicks, with her slender legs slightly upturned, enjoying the surroundings, headed by the local elf overlord Lantangwa, at least a dozen or so. The service of the pavilion-level leader spirit. In front of Baizi not far away, all the tree fruits of the shade jungle searched by these overlords and chief elves have long been piled up. With the help of absolute memory ability, Baizi quickly produced this fine wine, which is called 100 Fruit Brew, in Alola, in only a few trials and errors, using an accelerated fermenter. However, this mince brew is indeed intoxicating, but its unique volatile properties make it impossible for O2 to keep it for a long time, not to mention. Baizi looked at the amber-colored liquid in the wooden wine glass that quickly evaporated into mist and gradually emptied, and frowned slightly. What's more, the remains of life in the shade jungle where Kapu Deity is located are almost dozens of kilometers away. Journey. It's almost like a fantasy to rely on the aroma of wine that can't even come out of the tree-shaded jungle to attract Kapu Deity. He thought so in his heart, but Baizi was not anxious and irritable, but calmly crossed his knees on the ground, spread out the tentacles of his mental power, and thought quietly. Since it is the content of the quest of the pursuit, trial, then there must be some way to achieve this. It's just that this method is a limitation of time and distance, or is it some hidden point that I didn't think of? Time passed by minute, and with the extension of Baizi's spiritual tentacles, he suddenly discovered an interesting phenomenon. Wind. In other words, the wind track above the shade jungle is quite interesting. Baizi opened his eyes. A pack of burning white thought power suddenly poured out, pulling it directly above the shaded jungle. Look around. Carefully feel the direction of the wind track over the forest. Sure enough. There was a smile on Baizi's mouth. Russian hectares. He descended again, looked around at the various tree fruits piled up into mountains, and waved to the white figure not far away. Philomelas, work. A high slope east of the shade jungle. Baizi looked at the group of elves who were orderly divided into groups, doing polishing, cleaning, peeling and juicing. It's so dangerous, I almost said what was in my heart. Wow sauce tilde. Philomena's face is taken for granted. It shows that with the charm of the old lady, it can call a group of licking dogs to do anything for it at any time. These are completely small cases. Baizi smiled and shook his head. With the help of a group of elves, a puree was prepared in an orderly manner according to the original proportion. After the fermentation accelerator is installed, Baizi turned his eyes to Philomelas beside him. Are you ready? Pharaoh nodded slightly. The method Baizi has explained to it in detail, and what it needs to use happens to be what it is good at. That's good. Baizi took a deep breath, and then, while spitting out a mouthful, pressed the switch button of the fermentation accelerator in his hand. With a humming sound, the viscous virgin juice quickly precipitated and metabolized with the sound of the machine running. Soon, in the circular stone pool excavated on the slope, the amber-colored wine liquid was rapidly condensed. The mist rises with it, like a hot spring in winter, and the rich aroma of wine drifts in the air. Next second. Wow sauce tilde. Philomelody appeared in the sky above the wine smell like lightning, and its slender figure turned sharply, turning into a spinning top. High-speed rotation. In an instant, a tornado appeared out of thin air. The alcohol that was spilling from below was wrapped up and brought straight into the sky above the shaded jungle. A gust of wind passed by. Immediately pulling the sweet smell of wine, at a strange high speed, he galloped away in the direction of the coastline in the south. Akara Island has a very special geographical feature. An island has several climates at the same time as if the four seasons coexist. The reason for this is the wind track trend caused by the special geographical features. Indistinguishable to the naked eye. But if you look at it from a mental perspective, you can see the intricate wind tracks flowing over Akara Island like a grid. It divides the climate of the entire Akara Island into several parts and coexists without interfering with each other. At the same time, a special cycle is formed, linking the entire island into a cohesive whole. Therefore, Baizetsu made 450 whimsy. Since it is difficult to do it manually, is it possible to use this peculiar wind track and the power of nature to bring the aroma of this pagoda brew to the outskirts of Akara Island? Among the remains of life, mincemeat continued to volatilize, and Philomelas continued to use its high-speed rotation skills to pull the alcohol. But I didn't see the arrival of Kapu, Dai until the drinks were almost bottomed out. Bai Z frowned. If this is not successful, he really has nothing to do for a while. Suddenly, a crisp cry suddenly sounded behind him. And, it's close at hand. Chattered Tilda. The sound was pleasant, as if a naughty little girl was greeting her. Baizi's heart skipped a beat, and he turned his head abruptly. He saw a lovely elf with a pink silkworm chrysalis-like shell and pink tentacle-like hair floating in the air, tilting his head and looking at himself. There was pure innocence in his eyes. It is Kapu, Dai. Chapter 327. Double the happiness. Success. He breathed a sigh of relief, but was stuck. Dai, who is staring at Baizi with innocent eyes like this, does not feel relaxed at all in her heart. The body tensed almost subconsciously. Kapu, butterfly. The elf's name. And Kapu. Mingming is also one of the patron saints of the Alola region, responsible for guarding Akara Island. But with Kapu, who is very curious but still a little measured. Mingming is different. Kapu. Dai's character is both innocent and cruel. Yes, naive, and cruel. This is not contradictory. Because of Kapu, Dai's heart is like a naive child, pure white, but because of this, she has no concept of right and wrong in her heart, and what she does depends on her own thoughts. Kill and rescue, completely arbitrary. This is undoubtedly scary. What's more, Kapu, Dai also has a powerful force that makes most people and elves irresistible. Elf, Kapu, butterfly. Attribute, super fairy. Characteristics, spirit maker. When entering the field, a spiritual field will be set up. Telepathy, hidden characteristics, read our attack, and dodge its move damage. Level 2 God high level 108, 5100ths. Potential, level 2 God. HP, 70, attack, 85, defense, 75, special attack, 130, special defense, 115, speed, 95. Exclusive skill, Wrath of Nature, superpower. Skills, spiritual field, fragrant mist, aromatherapy, black eyes, draining kiss, psychic power, mental wave, fantasy light, sweet scent, mental impact, supernatural power, moon attack. Open black lens bracket authority, pregnancy close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket status, perfect close black lens bracket. Introduction. Kapu, who arrived in the realm of God. Butterfly, the luminous scale powder spread on the body will activate the body and have the effect of healing wounds or diseases, but once you touch these scale powder in large quantities, the body will not be able to tolerate the changes, so this is also a dangerous thing. Its desire to win is not strong, but it is unwilling to lose the game, and it is very good at making the opponent's state abnormal. As far as the panel is concerned, Kapu, Dai is weak in both strength and potential. Ring out. But the combat power that is close to the peak of the second level God is still not something he can deal with now. Fortunately, I have the experience of facing the dream directly before. Although Baizi was tense all over, he could still maintain a calm state of mind. His eyes were calm with Kapu. Butterfly looked at each other. Hey, Factory Tilda. There was a stalemate like this for a moment, and when Baizi was about to ask, Kapu. But Dai took the lead. I saw it suddenly narrowed its curved eyes. Hee hee tilde. Laughing, the light ribbons with pink stars flew up, quickly circled around Baizi's body, and then came to the wine pool. Reaching out his hand, the invisible mind force immediately summoned the remaining pagoda brew to him. Then he took a small sip, like a whale sucking, and drank all the wine that was at least enough to fill several tanks in one breath, and drank it clean. Every tilde. Lovely took a drink, and two blush kapu rose up on his face. Dai Dai was suddenly overwhelmed by alcohol, and fell back to the ground with a naive look. Chow Baizi smiled silly. Then, just like that, he shrank his head and shrank his body into the cocoon-like shell. Baizi was suddenly dumbfounded. After a while, after Mr. Carl and the two Rusamines approached, he spread his hands helplessly and said, "Islander Carl, look, is this done or not?" Ah! It was the first time that Mr. Carl saw such a situation, and he scratched his head a little. According to the regulations, it should be completed, but... Saying that, Mr. Carl pointed to the island tour certificate in Baizi's hand with a gloomy expression. But generally speaking, after completing the challenge, the Patronus will personally light up the island tour certificate. You. Baizi looked down at the pendant in his hand. Obviously. Cup-loving Kapu, Dai Dai obviously didn't have time to light up the mark for him. Except for the only shining yellow mark, all other marks are in a dull state. Forget it. Looking at the worm cocoon, who was snoring faintly, and looking at the sky again, Baizi sighed softly. It's getting late, I'll be camping in the shady jungle tonight, waiting for Kapu. Dai Dai wakes up, help me light up the mark, and then go to Lord Carr for your final, great trial. That's all there is to it. Mr. Carl opened his mouth hesitantly, then thought about it, and had to shake his head helplessly. After saying goodbye to Mr. Carl, Baizi immediately took out a square plastic box from his pocket, placed it in the open space, and with a single press, it quickly expanded into a large tent, complete with pillows and mattresses inside. Rusamine took the initiative to get in and started to pack up the bed. As soon as Baizi raised his head, he saw a certain blonde, arrogant, defeated dog looking at the tent that was set up with interest, with curiosity and desire to explore new things in his eyes. "Why haven't you left yet?" "Huh." The blonde dog was stunned for a moment. After hearing it clearly, his mouth suddenly bulged like a golden horn fish. "Why should I leave? Don't forget, you were on my plane just now. I'll let you sit back." Quote. Baizi looked at the little girl with bulging cheeks with a smile, and deliberately said, "There is only one tent. Are you going to keep us at night? Or are you going to squeeze and sleep together?" His flushed red, and he didn't know what he had imagined. After a short while, his eyes were hazy and he was about to stand unsteadily. "Why are you bullying Xiao Lu again, really? Is it Li's?" "This is." Rusamine who got out of the tent interrupted Baizi's bad taste. She turned her pretty eyes slightly, stepped forward quickly, and hugged little Rusamine in her arms to comfort her. Baizi shrugged. It's not really his fault. Although the appearance is completely the same, it can show completely different emotions. A double happiness that a man can't refuse. What's more, he only teased her twice, but he didn't really want to show her 18. Amount tilde sinful sin. It's too thorny. Ahem, it's so evil. P.S. Short hair Rusamine tilde. Chapter 328. Dreamland, Sudden Attack. When night fell, Baizi finally failed to squeeze with Rusami and the others cheeky. Well, if the little Rusami from this time and space was not there, maybe he would really be able to take the opportunity to have sex with Rusami. Nice squeezed. Even, not to mention squeezing, luckily, he can still sweat. Thinking about it this way, little Rusamine, the blonde loser, was a little annoying in Baizi's heart. Thinking about these and not, with the passage of time, the night is getting darker. Had dinner. After saying hello to Baizi, Rusamine was pulled close to the tent by little Rusamine. He also installed an electronic eye outside his tent on his own accord. Thinking of this, Baizi couldn't help rolling his eyes. Also randomly hit a floor. Full screen. Just like that, he was halfway close to Kapu. Next to the worm cocoon that Dai Dai had transformed into. But for some reason, today's drowsiness seemed to be particularly intense and sudden. As soon as his head touched the ground, the intense drowsiness quickly disintegrated his consciousness, causing him to indulge in a peculiar dream. Outside world. The shady jungle was extraordinarily quiet tonight, and even some elves that were active at night continued to snore in their nests as if they were in bed. Under the moonlight. Kapu, the worm cocoon, 450 transformed by Dai Dai suddenly burst into light. A wisp of pink streamer exuding amazing divinity suddenly emerged from the top of the worm cocoon. Subsequently, with a strong suction, Baizi and one of the tents, Lusum and I, were taken in and turned into a pink light curtain that enveloped the two of them and hovered over Kapu. In the sky above Butterfly. The hazy moonlight penetrated the light curtain, reflecting the entangled, two black blurred images. Early the next morning. Katilda with a crisp sound, a small pink head suddenly appeared from the closed, worm cocoon. Shaking his slightly dizzy nerves from the hangover. Next second. A strong sense of weakness and hunger rushed into my heart. Feeling that the body was hollowed out. JPG. This is not starvation, but the result of long-term use of its own breeding. And it seems that it is precisely because of this that it has a better grasp of the comprehension of its duties. Kapu. Dai Dai quickly came to a conclusion. Looking around the messy scene, ACBH Kapu. Dai Dai immediately understood what was going on. A little closer to the boys and girls wrapped together not far away. Curiously tilted his head. Feeling the sense of duty emanating from the girl's body, she happily shook her body and tapped the girl's forehead and the island tour certificate, scattered on the side. Next second. In the pink streamer, it disappeared without a trace. The shaded jungle fell silent again. Soon. The pale golden eyelashes trembled slightly, and the girl slowly opened the slightly confused blue eyes. When Baizi woke up again, it was already more than 2 o'clock in the afternoon of the next day. Counting the time, he slept for at least 10 hours. His temples were a little swollen, and his waist and abdomen were sore, as if he had worked hard in the fields all day. Here is. He opened his eyes in a daze, and in the gradually clear line of sight, the magnificent chandelier roof came into view first. Immediately, a familiar and beautiful face came down and filled his sight. Baizi, you finally woke up. Rusamine. Supported to climb up from the girl's lap pillow, the gentle power of Baizi circulated in the body for a round, after a little awake. Then he comforted Zeraora and Pharombus a little. Baizi rubbed his brows and tried his best to review the fragmented and illusory dream memory in his mind, and asked softly, Lusum and I, what the hell is going on? I don't know the specifics, because I woke up no earlier than you, and as soon as I woke up, I was already in the guest room of the manor. Lusamine shook her head. And it's not just me, all my elves have fallen into a deep sleep almost like me, and only woke up not long ago. Is that so? Baizi turned his eyes to Zeraora and Pharomero, and after getting a positive answer, his brows suddenly became deeper. Neither herself nor Rusamine are ordinary trainers. The elves they held, the lowest ones also entered the realm of the Heavenly King. Not to mention the pheromone. It was a real beast that stepped into the realm of the gods, with a level of more than 90 levels. To be able to drag such an existence silently into the dream, I am afraid that at least a second-level god who is proficient in this way is needed. Kapu. Butterfly. Baizi and Rusamine almost spoke in unison. Immediately afterwards, Baizi also thought of another thing that might be able to check the cause of the incident last night. Do you remember the electronic eye that little Rusamine I placed outside the tent last night? You mean? Lusamine's eyes lit up. We may be able to use this electronic eye to figure out what happened last night. Baizi touched his waist subconsciously, his eyes flickered slightly, and he looked at Lusamine, also, since we were all sent back before we woke up to the manor, then. Not finished. Suddenly one by one. Then tilde tilde tilde. Along with the knock on the door, a familiar soft moan also came from outside the window. Baizi suddenly turned his head and saw two shirabi, one big and one small, one green and one pink, hovering outside the window holding hands. A green light circle spread out from the rabbi when his eyes were closed. And the pink little rabbi, who happened to meet Baizi's eyes, stuck out his tongue and smiled shyly at Baizi. A sudden attack again. Baizi's complexion changed, and he immediately threw his body towards Rusamin, who was still a little stunned, and shouted at the same time, Zeraora. P.S. Calvin wants to die, mainly because the original plot is not allowed to be written. I am very bald because of the re-architecture, so I am going to reduce the branch line and directly go back to the main time and space to start writing the plot of the Silver Mountain contest. There is only one chapter today, look at Haihan. Chapter 329, Where is Dad? By _ As Shirabi shouted, the surrounding scene became more and more transparent and distorted. The ripples of time and space point directly in the direction of Baizi. And before that, Baizi finally hugged Rusamin at this sudden and critical moment, and Kapu, who was sleeping in the Pokeball most of the time, except in the first sleepiness period. Mingming, his two remaining elves, Zeraora and Feromero, are all low-level legends known for their speed and reflexes. Although they were stunned, they all returned to the Pokeball just before the time-space ripples spread. Immediately after that, the increasingly strong space-time ripples swept the two of them around Baizi in an instant. In light blue ripples, Baizi and Rusamin in his arms seemed to have been transformed, and they were also rendered by this light blue color, blooming with a ray of light, and gradually began to become transparent. White, sister. At this time, the person outside the door also seemed to feel that something was wrong, and suddenly pushed open the door and broke in. The pale golden ponytail swayed, and the pretty face was pale. It was Lusamanai at this time. At this moment, the eyes of Baizi and Lusamanai suddenly collided. Somehow, an inexplicable guilt suddenly rose in Baizi's heart, and he forced a smile, but only halfway through the smile, the scenery in front of him suddenly changed like a kaleidoscope. Next second, in this splendid bedroom, little Rusamin was left alone. Rusamanai froze in place as if someone had immobilized her. Her eyes were empty, her clenched left hand was loosened, and the disc-shaped electronic eye suddenly slipped from the palm of her hand and fell to the ground, dripping. The spun up, different time and space, parallel world. Rusamanai muttered to herself. Good half sound. It was like waking up from a nightmare, and recovered from a sudden chill. Just like that, did you just leave like this? You did something like that to me, and. After muttering a few words to herself, Lusamin fell silent, and gently, with an extremely complicated look, placed her palm on her lower abdomen. After waking up this morning, she found out that although she didn't know the reason, she could really feel that in her body, a little life that was bound to be born extraordinary. A few years later, the Allura area. Even Lusamin didn't meet her. The little life she gave birth to, her daughter, would be so different. The gestation period was a full 5 years, and during this period, her belly did not change at all. If it hadn't been for the latest life detector to detect the life and consciousness fluctuations in the abdomen, Lusamin would even think that it was all just an illusion. 6th year. Wow tilde tilde tilde. Accompanied by a cry, a pink-white streamer suddenly rose from Lusamanai's belly one night, and in the astonished eyes she woke up later, it directly turned into a little baby girl with fluffy blonde hair. Her skin was as smooth as white porcelain, not wrinkled like a newborn baby at all. It was inherited from her jasper eyes, faintly glittering with a cloud-like azure blue luster. It's like that guy's eyes. Rusamina, who exuded maternal brilliance, was slightly taken aback when she saw this, and she spread it out. Under the curtain-like waterfall of pale golden hair, her emerald eyes were slightly dim. That guy, my elder sister. His eyes flickered, But then, the reminiscence that had just arisen was covered by a strong paranoia. I definitely won't be like this. Rusamine's voice of self-convincing murmurs subsided. And right now. Ha tilde. Accompanied by a delicate moan, a pink figure that seemed to be wrapped in a cocoon appeared in the bedroom among the pink light spots that suddenly rose. You are, Kapu, Dai. Ha tilde. Kapu. Dai's eyes curled in response to Lusamine, then raised her hands high, and a pink halo suddenly enveloped the newborn baby girl. This is God's blessing. A few years in the blink of an eye. Mom, why don't I have a father? Where is my father? The little girl who was clearly identified as Lily finally asked her mother this question for the first time. Wearing a white lab coat, Rusamine, who had suddenly trimmed her hair into short hair for some reason, was shocked when she heard the words. Looking at the pale blue eyes that were gradually rendered by the blue, his eyes were complicated, and he was stunned in the same place for a while. It's really like, it won't take long, it will be exactly the same as that guy. Sorry, Lily, this question. Me too. Rusamine was at a loss for words. She squatted down and gently kissed Lily's forehead and eyes. 0 inches. I still have some things to do. I will come back to see you after a while. Leaving this sentence, Lusamine stood up resolutely and walked out of the house without looking back. But Lily looked at her mother who had disappeared at the door. Her face was slightly wrinkled, she squeezed the Pippi doll tightly in her arms, and whispered the rest of the words in the empty room. Mom, you haven't been with me for a long time. It's time to eat. However, even the mother doesn't know the answer. So, is the father lost? Suddenly, such a thought rose in Lily's small head. If I find my father, can my mother be by Lily's side? And my father? At that time, there will be 2 people who will accompany Lily. The infection is deeper and brighter. Faintly, there is a cloud-like phantom, lingering in it. P.S. Because of some unspeakable reasons, the plot of Rice Bowl with Egg that one originally involved is impossible. In this case, in order to fit the age cute, I changed Lily's age. That's it. A few. Chapter 330. The overlord of the per capita Tianwang plus nanny group, Lily set sail. Just do it. The little girl quickly put on her shoes and socks, a white felt hat and a small backpack, and left a note one by one. Then, he rushed to the living room, looked around for a while, then pushed open the windowsill, jumped from the 3rd floor, the bright white light lifted, and slowly fell into the backyard. On the lawn. Lily was born extraordinary and gifted. Since childhood, he has possessed motor cells that are far beyond ordinary people, and his slender legs can leap up the treetops in 3 or 2 steps. She also has a powerful telekinesis ability, as well as an almost explosive elf affinity. Especially the elf affinity. Rely on this. Lily, whose personality is quite different from the original book, has made a lot of good friends with Rusamine on her back. Through a hidden door in the corner of the backyard. 450s, walked through the forests and rivers with ease, and greeted the passing elves from time to time. Soon, Lily came to a large tree. Yes, it was large. The height of this giant tree did not exceed the surrounding trees by much, it was basically the same. But the diameter and width are quite astonishing, at least it takes dozens of people to hug to close. Its canopy is generally covered. Among the lush foliage, a delicate tree house is located in it. Hey tilde. The little girl jumped on the spot, grabbed a knotted rope that was drooping down, hummed, and climbed up a tree trunk that was almost 5 meters high. Standing on the paved wooden platform, looking into the distance, he wiped the sweat that didn't even exist on his forehead. Momo tilde. Suddenly, Lily's backpack trembled for a while, and an elf with an ethereal mentality, a blue-violet body, and a face, eyes and nose like clouds, came out. Maymay stretched and yawned, then climbed to Lily's neck with her cotton wool hands, and rubbed it intimately. This little guy is Kapu, the patron saint of this island, shortly after Lily was born. Ming, and Kapu who blessed her. Butterfly came to her and gave it to her, which was her initial elf. Because there is no signature in the existing materials, Lily named it Little Nebula, according to her appearance. He, it's so itchy tilde. After playing with Little Nebula for a while, Lily finally remembered her business. She put Little Nebula around her neck like a collar, and followed the circular wooden walkway to the top horizontal cliff of the treehouse. Enter a small wooden structure resembling a clock tower. Reach out and gently tug at the knotted rope. Immediately, the crisp wind bell rang. Jingle bell tilde tilde tilde. With the light sound, invisible fluctuations spread out. Soon, Lily had just jumped out of the treehouse. Pong! The ground trembled lightly, the dust and smoke were torn apart directly, and a giant doll bear standing up appeared in front of Lily. Hey Tilda, we're a bear. Lily hugged the bear's calf and greeted with a muffled face. The arrival of the dressed bear seems to have opened the curtain. Not for a while. The ground trembled, the ice crystals were paved, the fluorescent light flickered, the shadows moved, the streams surged. The scaled dragon, the Alola Mountain King, the orchid mantis flower, the mini Q, the weak ding skull. There were a dozen or so in front and back. The huge elves gathered together. If a somewhat knowledgeable trainer in the Alola region saw this scene, he would be so shocked that his jaw would drop. Because these huge elves who came in a very short time, all of them are the top combat power of the islands in the Alola region, and overlord elves. To the end. Accompanied by a burst of pink streamer, as the patron saint of Akara Island, Kapu. Butterfly, also appeared from the light. Little butterfly tilde. Lily greeted with a crisp voice. The surrounding overlord elves are also no different. The reason why some of them can come so quickly is also thanks to the help of this super-powered island guardian god. Everyone tilde. After greeting the overlord elves one by one, Lily folded her hands and said with a straight face, I have decided to leave Alola and set off to find my father. So, I am here today and say goodbye to everyone first. Saying that, the little guy spread his hands backwards like a plane, and bowed deeply to the elves in front of him. Don't be sad, everyone, after Lily finds her father, she will come back to see everyone tilde, 1v1 tilde tilde. As soon as Lily finished speaking, the scene suddenly fell silent. Immediately, ow tilde. Click tilde. Squeaky. All the elf overlords shouted as if they were about to lose their cubs. Even if they didn't understand it, they could see that none of the elf overlords agreed with Lily's decision. But Lily, despite her young age, has a big idea. She looks completely unmoved. A group of overlord elves suddenly talked a lot. Although they are friendly in front of Lily, how can they not know that the weak and the strong are indispensable in the elf world when they become the overlords of one party? Lily is indeed talented, but after all, she is still too young. How can these overlord elves who treat Lily as their own children and nephews can rest assured? But it's not realistic to stop Lily abruptly. Let's not talk about whether they can harden their hearts, just the marshmallow-like elf in Lily's hand. Although in terms of combat power, it is almost useless, but that hand's momentary movement, even a mini-zero may not be able to stop it. Kapu, Lord Dai may be able to. But it has always left Lily's hands, let alone helping to stop it. It is a good thing not to help Lily. An overlord frowns. Finally. I have to insist that if I can't stop it, I will work hard on security. 1.7. Proposed by wearing a bear, Kapu. Dai recommended, and selected 8 elves, including wearing the bear herself, to form a nanny group, and go with Lily. As for the poke ball, it was Kapu. Provided by Dai. Then, Lily expedition, let's go. With a coquettish cry, Lily collected the pokey ball, boarded the fish boat, composed of deformed groups of weak dingies, and set sail. P.S. Little padded jacket Lily tilde. Chapter 331. Return, summon the elves. When the image in front of Baizi's eyes became clear again. What catches the eye is Junshin town, the peaceful and familiar scenery. Have you come back? Baizi murmured to himself. This short but rich time travel came and ended suddenly, but in general, he still gained a lot. At the very least, not only did he gain a beautiful girl at the level of the 4 heavenly kings, but he also obtained the ultimate alien beast of the tri-pole god, Pharaohmerity, which is already an alien legend with no less potential, Kapu. Ming. But somehow, at this moment, Baizi always felt a sense of loss in his heart. And at this moment, a series of system prompts suddenly sounded in his ears one by one. Your Hornet Bee defeated and subdued 1288 bee colonies. The effective number of individuals defeated is 119, and the income is quite rich. The experience value is +515, attack +6, speed +8, skill proficiency is greatly improved, gauntlets, double needles, and high-speed movement are promoted to the profound level. Your Zoroark has deeply excavated his own potential with the help of evil law crystals, and his exclusive characteristic illusion has experienced substantial growth and transformation. He has been promoted to the champion field of O2, special attack +25, and the evil law comprehension has reached 89% 2-level god limit. Your Laplace ran long distance, broke through the barrier, HP +12, speed +10, ice law exceeded 1%. Swallowed a lot of water attribute heaven and earth treasures, promoted to the limit of the king, and obtained the top attribute item. Ice Soul Heart greatly enhances the power of ice attribute moves. Your Wind Speed Dog has gained a little after a long journey, stamina +8, speed +4, smell detection, high-speed movement to upgrade to the mystery level. Your Giant Gold Monster has been meditating for a long time, controlling magnetism, swallowing ore, scanning with mind force, focusing on 4 uses, successfully mastering the quadruple spell casting, and relying on the double cycle of near-limit consumption and replenishment to successfully break through the championship field. Your Shanae duo was baptized by the dream and the tree of the beginning of the world, completed the transformation, his qualifications broke through the limit of the 2nd-level god, and he was comparable to a high-ranking legend. He received the teachings of the Super Dream, and the spiritual breaking skills were promoted to the mystery level, and the X form was successfully activated. Level +9 close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Close black lens bracket. A series of more than 10 beeps, smashing, came, making Baizi a little confused. How long has he been gone? Why does it seem that all the hands have completed such a transformation without him knowing? Long rush. Long journey to Shinado and even to the World Tree and found Mewtwo. Although the experiences of the elves are different, Baizi can feel the efforts they have made for himself from the only information. Especially this guy, Lai Kongzai, in the system's prompt, he actually defeated Dialga, known as the God of Time, twice. These guys. The corner of Baizi's mouth raised a gentle smile. Then, just when he suddenly remembered, when he was about to ask Rabbi the specific time limit for crossing. Turning around, where are the traces of the 2 Shirabi? This look of absconding in fear of crime. The corner of Baizi's mouth twitched. If it wasn't for the fact that his elf bracelet had been disassembled before to repair the ultimate hole-closing device, he wouldn't need to ask Rabbi for the specific time. But now it seems. It is clear. The timeline of his return didn't quite match the time he left. I am just not sure how long it took. I hope I won't miss the quartz conference. Baizi sighed and rubbed his eyebrows. Immediately after. Like a summary after completing a stage, the familiar system prompt sounded in my ears again one by one. You have completed a time travel. Your adaptability to the power of time and space has been enhanced, and you will receive a special reward, the Bell of Summoning. Open black lens bracket calling bell. No matter how far you are, you can convey your thoughts when you ring the bell to all the elves that belong to you. Close black lens bracket. This thing is really just right. Baizi took out the rattle, shook it gently, and an invisible ripple overflowed from the sound of the rattle. Baizi, you are. Seeing this scene, Rusamina, who was looking around at Baizi's homeland, suddenly asked curiously. This is called the calling bell, which can call up elf partners scattered all over the world. Baizi responded with a smile and raised the delicate bell in his hand, but he didn't mean to hide it. The Bell of Summoning. Rusa Manello pondered and found that it was a name of a prop that she had never heard of, but her attention was not on the bell. Your elf, is it scattered elsewhere? It's to find my uneasy master. Baizi's eyes were gentle, and then he turned his attention to the direction of the Damu Research Institute. However, there are still a few guys who are staying in Junshin town. Hey, look Tilda. He lifted his chin slightly and pointed forward. A cloud of jet black flames flew toward him and spread out the moment they landed. 4 elves with different shapes and expressions, all with excited expressions, appeared in front of Baizi's eyes. Zoroark, Gili Egg, Ibrahimovic, and, after the evolution, the Flaming Monkey. Gili Egg and Ibrahimovic rushed towards Baizi for the first time, and the Flaming Monkey even aroused a state of fierce fire, jumping up and down around one person and 2 pets. Only Zoroark, like a sculpture, stood not far from Baizi. His eyes were dazed, and there was a hint of disbelief in his anticipation, unable to return to his senses for a long time. Don't cry, I am fine. He soothed the tearful auspicious egg in his arms, rubbed Ibrahimovic's little head, and punched the Flaming Monkey who was holding back the excitement. Baizi raised his head and slowly stretched his palm to the bewitching upright gray fox. Zoroark, I'm back. A smile slowly appeared on Zoroark's face, as if he had returned to the Zoroha era. He squatted down gently, and with a long-lost moisturizing, put his head against the palm of Baizi's body. Sighed Tilda. Chapter 332. The Rabbi Who Is About to Be Driven Crazy. The jingle bells are crisp and clear, and they are transmitted to all parts of the world with strange fluctuations. Kanto. To the east of the outer periphery of the core area of the vibrant forest, once again with absolute strength defeated the metal flash hornbees of an entire overlord-level hornet swarm. To this group of fellow clansmen, it issued its only instruction as the new queen bee. I only need you to do one thing, to find. Before he could finish speaking, Big Needlebee suddenly stopped. This is the master's call. Beer Tilda. The high-pitched insect chirping suddenly came from the mouth of the big needlebee, and the breath of the near champion peak swept across all directions in an instant, and also stirred up several similar breaths in the sky above the eastern district of the vibrant forest, circling and colliding with each other. These are the overlords in their respective territories, proclaiming their own existence. The big stinger didn't pay attention to the vibrant overlords who had more or less collided with him. After calming down, it turned its gaze to the heart of the Viking forest. Every time it approached, it could feel a faint sense of threat from it. As well as that more intense fatal attraction. The big needlebee can vaguely feel that there is a power that has the same root and the same origin as the insect king orb in his body. Perhaps, it will be the catalyst to open it up to the realm of God in the future. But now, not yet. Without paying any attention to the overlord-level giant stinger bee group that it forcibly subdued, the giant stinger bee barely hesitated, and then flew straight into the air and hurried towards the direction of Junshin town. When the original leader of the overlord-level giant stinger bee comes back to his senses, will there be traces of their new leader? In the Vortex Islands, Laplace and Suicune, who were talking to a Lugia, suddenly raised their heads. On the north street of Yuhong City, the wind speed dog who closed his eyes and searched in the high-rise building opened his eyes angrily. Aster Town did not pay any attention to the ghost-type elves that were entrenched all over the body, constantly playing with him, and the giant golden monster that moved inch by inch like a machine suddenly stopped. The turbulent thought power surged out, and instantly crushed the dozen or so ghost-type elves circling around into the air. Subsequently, Pong! The whole Aster town shook like an earthquake, and the giant golden monster suddenly turned into a rocket, pushing the layers of sonic boom clouds straight into the sky. Chengdu. On a mirror lake in the lush forest, a shirabi who was obviously smaller than an ordinary shirabi deftly avoided a small slash, then turned around and disappeared from the air. Annoyed, and the immature little cotton sound echoed in the air. Oops Tilda, I've said it all. I've already asked the clan to pick up the guy who was lost in another time and space. Why can't you sit down and talk and wait? Rabbi, I also said that as long as you are willing to take us to find him, I promise not to harass you again. Yayi, who was sitting on Kang Zhang's back, was unmoved at all. Her eyes were on the dial in her hand, and the empty space that seemed to have nothing was constantly patrolling. Her spirit was highly concentrated. This Shirabi was found by chance when Yayi had traveled almost all over Chengdu with a loud noise. If she didn't see Bai Zi, she wouldn't let her guard down if she said anything. You. Shirabi was also a little angry. How many times have I said it? I am the Shirabi who traces this time and space, and I can't get out of this time and space. You guys, why don't you listen? What? Furious. JPG. It is also really annoying. As a crucial individual in the Shirabi family, although it can't traverse time and space indiscriminately, it can hide its body in the cracks of time and space, let alone a trainer. Even Dialga, who is known as the god of time, can't easily find them. This is their gift as an alternative embodiment of time. But this little girl in front of her has a strange instrument. She didn't know where she got it. She hides in time and space. Although the other party can't catch her, she can use the traces of time ripples to determine her position. I can't get rid of these two dog skin plasters that don't listen to me at all. Obviously, after it knew about it, it had already summoned the same clan to find people for the first time. Just so angry. Retire. Be sure to retire as soon as possible. Continue to work as a drawing point. Sooner or later I will encounter this kind of thing. The rabbi was indignant when he painted the dots. And here it is. Yi tilde. The unique awe-inspiring female voice suddenly echoed from the air. I feel Bai Zi's call, so I don't have to continue to endure with this guy. Yayi didn't react for a while, and was stunned for a while, before she said with a slight trembling, King, Lord King Shang, you mean, Bai Zi has already back. King Zheng's voice was gentle, and during this period of time, he had fully recognized this seemingly weak, yet resilient little girl. It's great, it's great. Yayi's expression loosened. Without further ado. Sit tight. King Shang had already turned around and ran out of the forest. Moment. A Shirabi who was no more than the size of a slap emerged from the air, patted his chest, and said with a look of joy, it's gone. If it doesn't leave, its energy is about to run out, so it can only shamelessly call its kin for help. It's congratulations, congratulations. Clear Cliff, Shanae Duo, who was staring at the thousands of screens in the room constantly flashing their respective landscapes, was shocked. Without further ado, boom, directly transformed into a sassy gesture, breaking through the top floor, leaving only the scream of the air. Next second, a lilac figure appeared in an instant, and with a wave of his bare hands, the smashed gravel was fixed in the air. Looking at the hole in the roof, a low voice slowly sounded, Are you back? Bai Zi. Quote. Ellipsis. On the other side, Junxin Town. Bai Zi leaned on the door of his own courtyard, looked at the sky full of stars, waited quietly, turned his eyes to his side, and checked the attribute panel of the flaming monkey that used himself as a torch. Open black lens bracket race, flaming monkey. 7 close black lens bracket. Attribute, fire fighting. Characteristics, fierce fire, iron fist Monty, exceptional, exclusive characteristics. When the will and the mind reach a certain limit, you can't make breakthroughs that ignore common sense, and even nirvana. Level, Gym Advanced, level 45, 95 100ths. Potential, Heavenly King, extreme, second transformation. HP, 76, Attack, 104, Defense, 71, Special Attack, 104, Special Defense, 71, Speed, 108. Skills, Sonic Fist, Grabbing, Staring, Sparks, Provocation, Random Grabbing, Fire Wheel, Fake Attack, Self-Motivation, Unreasonable Trouble, Close Combat. And more. Genetic Skills, Chi Gathering, Lightning Fist. Open black lens bracket condition, good close black lens bracket. Introduction, one of the fire masters who has undertaken a fateful fate. The will in his heart is like a flame, and his hot heart is enough to cause miracles. He has extraordinary power and is an unquestionable hard-working genius. Chapter 333. If you don't achieve your goal, you will never give up. The strength has been regarded as entering the hall, reaching the high level of the gymnasium, and the potential has also transformed to the limit of the king. Coupled with the extra iron fist characteristics, the evolved flame monkey can be said to have experienced a reborn transformation once again. You know, the little fire monkey at the beginning is just a fire master with a potential below the average. Exceptional feature is indeed terrifying. As expected of one of the main players in Xiaoji's hands, enough to be called an ace. Baizi's eyes flashed with admiration, and he couldn't help sighing inwardly. From the several regions that have official alliance conferences, there are several main elves that Xiaoji has grown up with, and each of them can be said to be gifted. If Baizi was born a commoner and has no golden fingers, it would be a considerable shortcut to cut off Xiaoji's main forces according to the plot. Of course. This is to assume. Really want to talk about the elf resources, with his current hand, it is definitely better than Xiaoji's. There is no need to sigh about the luck of Xiaoji in the original book. Was thinking. The sound of the wings trembled from far to near, and it rang in my ears almost in an instant. As soon as Baizi raised his head, under the moonlight, the needle-piercing worm with a dark metallic luster stood silently in the void. It has always been able to perform with ease, but at this time, it was slightly out of breath. The needle arm on the right is as new as the 450, but it is obviously much slender than the left arm. Bai Zitong's eyes flashed slightly. As the trainer of the Hornby, how could he not know that this is the difference that the Hornby's needle arm will have after it has been completely broken and regrown? The needle arm, has it broken? He made a judgment in his heart, but Baizi didn't point it out. Instead, he pretended not to know, and raised a familiar smile at the big Hornby, just like when they first met. Welcome home, big Hornby. Sizzling beer tilde. As if all the distractions were quickly cleared up, the big needlebee let out a soft moan, slowly flew up and landed on the fence above the courtyard gate. His gaze swept across Baizi who was not far below him, revealing a faint smile. And it wasn't long before the giant stinger returned. Pulling a line of fire and speeding through the flames, the Suicune, Laplace, and little Lugia, who were traveling together with ice, pushed forward layer by layer like cannonballs in the air, a giant gold monster with amazing momentum. These guys showed their magical powers, and they arrived almost in no particular order. Baizi's body was immediately surrounded. Sujin lightly rubbed the back of Baizi's hand. Even Laplace, who never liked to be close to him in front of everyone, also wrapped his long neck around his giant golden monster, which he hatched since he was a child, and put it directly on top of his head, in a celebratory manner. Spinning. Little Lugia looked even more tearful, and fell directly into Baizi's arms, sobbing softly. By the time the little guy was finally coaxed, it was time for the moon to rise. Everyone was reluctant to leave, and even the Zoroarks in the house walked out of the courtyard, lying around, surrounding Baizi. As soon as his ankles tightened, Baizi lowered his head, but it was Machado's sluggish face that was still expressionless. This was the first time he had approached him so actively. Welcome back, Marciado. Rubbing the other party's fluffy little head, Marciado seemed to finally be able to feel at ease, rubbed Baizi's palm back twice, and slowly sank into the shadow under Baizi's feet. The only ones who haven't come back yet are Baizi tilde. A slightly hoarse vibrato interrupted Baizi's thoughts, and Yayi jumped off Kang Xing's back with a dusty face, wrapped in a jacket that could not be seen clearly. Just landed. He staggered forward with his legs weak, and fell straight to the ground. Be careful. Baizi's heart was startled, and he quickly took a step to take Yayi, who was about to fall down, into his arms. His sleeves tightened, and Yayi subconsciously held it in his hands. The next second, a slight snoring sound came from his arms. Baizi's eyes flickered, gently ACBH trying to pick up the person in his arms, but found that the clasped white palms were tugging at his sleeves. It was like a life-saving straw, making it difficult for him to break free. Sleep. He whispered a word, and then smiled at Kang Shang, who stepped forward, without any extra words, and simply returned to the secret ball. The fetters of each other and Kang Zhang's mind have been made clear. And at this moment, as if sensing something, Bai Zi suddenly turned back. In the light, Shinado, who had withdrawn from the super-evolutionary state, slowly fell to Bai Zi, as if nothing had happened, smiling like a flower. Welcome home, Bai Zi. Ah tilde. Bai Zi was stunned for a moment, and with a smile, he unconsciously pulled the corner of his mouth and replied softly. So far, except for Lai Kongzai, all the elves have returned. But, Lai Kong sits. Bai Zi can be sure that Lai Kongzai has received his message, and that no one can stop Lai Kongzai, who wants to leave, unless Arceus goes off in person. Judging from the sound of the system, Lai Kongzai went to Shanao to find Dialga Luca's trouble. And, it has always prevailed. But Dialga is not a top legend as an independent individual. It is interdependent with Palukia, who is in charge of the space latitude, and Giratina, who is the Lord of the Inverted World. Although most of the time they don't get along with each other, they still fight with each other. Dialga and Palucha even often play a dog's brain because of territorial reasons. But once Dialga is really in danger, maybe Palkia or Giratina would join the fight. And Bai Zi is also well aware of the nature of his shining black seat, and he will never be afraid to move forward. As for hearing Bai Zi's call, will he give up the fight and come back? Judging from what Bai Zi knew about her, I'm afraid, in addition to the joy, it will inspire her fighting spirit even more. Headache tilde, rubbed his eyebrows. I hope my guess is wrong. Bai Zi prayed in his heart, but unfortunately, Lai Kong sat, exactly as he expected. P.S. Shinado tilde. Chapter 334. Dialga, who was beaten out of pride, please order. Shanao, Tiongguan Peak, Pillar of Spears. Roar. In the roar of the dragon's roar that shocked the world, the dark dragon head slowly protruded from the huge cavity formed by the surging frantic airflow. The crimson sharp dragon eyes stared at the blue four-legged dragon beast in the shape of a sauropod dinosaur 100 meters away. The light blue stripes spread like veins on the body's surface. The back of the head has a square cone protruding top, and the head, back, tail, feet, and even the front chest are covered with silver-white metal armor, protecting bags. At the very center of its breastplate, there is also a cobalt blue pentagonal diamond inlaid. This is one of the top legends of Shanao with the title of God of Time, Dialga. Dialga has the ability to control time. It can warp time to speed up, slow down or stop it. Even open the channel of the time gap and travel to different time points in the same space. And the cobalt blue diamond on its chest armor is really one of the cores of its power to control time. Therefore, Dialga also has the nickname of Diamond Beast. And this time. In the center of this iconic artifact, which symbolizes the incarnation of the power of the God of Time, Dialga, an incomparably conspicuous crack is attached to it. Moreover, from time to time, it seemed like there was an electric leakage, and the sparks shot up, causing Dialga's face to have a painful look from time to time. In this battle, Dialga was at a disadvantage. In fact, in terms of rank, Dialga Luca wants to overwhelm Lai Kongzai. After all, it is a top legend preserved from ancient times. The accumulation is not comparable to a little girl who is less than 500 years old like Haishan Lai Kongzai. But it didn't expect anything. This can only be slightly inferior, but the combat power is still faintly pressing against the black Lai Kong sitting on the front line, and the shot will be so sudden and decisive. So much so that after it was awakened from the time gap, the moment it crossed the latitude void, it faced the finishing touch of the other party's all-out effort. Above the time diamond in the center of the ribcage. If it weren't for its thick skin and high blood, this time, it would be completely covered. Then, the craziness in front of him was chasing after the victory, constantly stabbing it back and forth with the finishing touch. Repeated stabs, and repeated requests. Let yourself help find a trainer who travels through time. Wipe. Is there such a thing as begging people? Beating me to death for making demands? Do you really think that my dignified time dragon god Dialga is a soft persimmon made of ooze? If you beat me, I'll give in. Dialga's eyes were deep, and the cold telepathy echoed in the air. Likong sit, I have said many times, without Arceus's permission, I can't travel through time at will. If you want to catch people, you should go find the rabbi. It didn't lie. Although it is called the god of time, it usually cannot travel through time at will. Unlike Shirabi, who was born by time, he is a mythical elf who was created by the creator god Arceus and occupies the role of time. Usually play time acceleration, time deceleration or time pause is okay to say. Once you want to travel through time, then we can only use the power of the director to open up the passage of the time gap, so as to descend into the past or future timeline. And without any reason to call time as one of the cornerstones of the world. There is no need for Arceus to come down and clean it up. The disturbed Palkia and Giratina will definitely make it run away. It's a bit embarrassing to say. But it doesn't matter, Groudon, the god of the earth, can't fly, and Alola's alien beast Solgaleo, the god of the sun, is still weak. He is a god of time. What's wrong with crossing the timeline? It's not that you can't wear. Good. Dialga had already made Shang Likong softly and secretly. After all, anyone who has been beaten to death for more than a month will be subdued. To know. The two of Feng Yuan's elf world will be turned upside down when they wake up, flightless and fat-headed fish. At most they can sit on the hands of primordial Likong for 3 or 5 days at most. It will be beaten back to the prototype, and obediently return to the crater and underwater cave to continue to sleep. Groudon, the idiot, said nothing. One of the stubborn old antiques like Kyoka has learned to change after repeated beatings, and began to make phantoms, and let themselves be freed in the seas of the elf world. 0. Ask for flowers, as far as it knows. What disguised as a mutant roaring whale king begging for food from the passing ships, deliberately restraining his breath to provoke the grumpy ocean overlord, and then bursting with divine might to scare the opponent half to death, and even deliberately being caught by the descendants of the human, water people. That play can spend. Its Dialga has been able to stand firm for more than a month and still not let go. It is already a role model among gods, and it is a legendary example. Thinking of this, the little bit of shame in Dialga's heart immediately dissipated, and even a little bit of pride was born. Likongza naturally didn't know what Dialga was thinking. Generally speaking, in the face of an opponent who has no intention of fighting, and after confirming that he cannot find the breakthrough he needs from it, Ritsukongza will end the useless battle very simply. 0. But as Baizi expected, Baizi's message was confirmed. Likongza was relieved, but in addition to his joy, his fighting spirit was stimulated. Or to put it bluntly, Likongza, who finally put down the big stone in his heart, wants to find a punching bag to vent the annoyance that has been suppressed in his heart these days. And this goal. 6. Likong sat silently and slowly stretched out the dragon's body, and the crimson dragon's eyes slowly swept across Dialga's body. In the end, it was fixed on the cobalt blue diamond above the opponent's chest. Speaking of which, Dialga Luca's time diamond may prevent Baizi from being affected by the time ripple again, and this is also a good gift. In an instant, Dialga's heart froze. Next second, chirp, the air screamed, and a rich green arrow light filled its entire field of vision at once. Sit in the air. Dialga's eyes widened angrily, and the red and black pupils were full of accusations of sneak attacks. Not about martial arts. A few. Chapter 335, Time Diamond, a message from Dr. Damu, please order all. It wasn't until Chenyang was born the next day that the slightly embarrassed Likongza returned late. I'll take this with me from now on. Crimson eyes patrolled around Baizi's body, and after throwing something away, he sank straight into the starry sky ball around Baizi's waist. It's so tiring. Dialga Luca is also a top legend without any temper, and its combat power is not really inferior to it. Lai Kongzai hit his mind on the power crystal at the core of others. This is forcing the opponent's dog to jump over the wall. In this case only a little embarrassed. To be honest, this performance is already amazing enough. The reason why Lai Kongzai can press the opponent from the beginning to the end is that he still has the first mover advantage at the beginning, and every time he wins a staged victory, there will be inexplicable feedback to supplement its ability. Class 450 is also for this reason. In the face of the old and top legends with strong background, in the protracted battle, Lai Kongzai became stronger and stronger. It's no wonder that Dialga was beaten so badly. Anyone who faces an opponent who is getting stronger and stronger in Vietnam will feel powerless. Such a change seems to have started when he officially became Bai Zi's elf. This guy is really a bunch of secrets. Lai Kong sat pondering in his heart, and after returning to the starry sky full of ozone, he felt the breath of Bai Zi's closeness, and he fell into his long-lost sleep. Outside world. Bai Zi took the crystal throne by Lai Kong sitting in a daze. The Diamond of Time contains the power of the source of time, and can be immune to the power of time ripples to a certain extent. This guy. He shook his head with a chuckle, touched the starry sky ball around his waist, and raised the corner of his mouth. Welcome home, Lai Kong. Sit down. The return of Lai Kongzai marks the return of all Bai Zi's hands. In the past few days of the renovation of Junxin town, he also generally understood the current time period and the situation of the elves. As he expected, the time period when he traveled back was indeed a little delayed. It had been more than a month since he left. There is less than a week left until the opening of the Quartz Conference. Because of this, there are few people left in the entire Junxin town. Because they had followed Dr. Damu to the venue of Baiyan Mountain a few days ago, ready to cheer for several participating trainers in Junxin town. As for Qihong and the others, they had already set off for Baiyan Mountain as early as half a month ago. It is said that because of the large number of participants, this time the Quartz Conference, specifically, it should be the renamed Silver Mountain Alliance Conference, which will have a preliminary screening mechanism. About this point, Dr. Ogi made an explanation before leaving, and reserved an email video for Bai Zi in his research institute. At this time, Bai Zi was on his way to the Oki Research Institute. Speak up. This time he suddenly disappeared, and many of his hands have been strengthened to a considerable extent. Not to mention the racial value, the changes are mostly mentioned in HP and speed. Mainly the growth in strength. Some of a large needle bee has successfully been promoted to the high-level champion, and the double needle, high-speed movement and gauntlet have all been upgraded to the mystery level. The superb speed battle honed in the vibrant forest, even Philomelus admits that under the same level, even it may not be able to keep up with the giant stingray. Zoroark is a little inferior, but relying on the crystallization of the evil law left by the fall of the Devil of the Sea, Dark Lugia in his body, he has also been promoted all the way to the middle-level champion, and his law comprehension has reached the peak of the second level of God. One by one, Shinado has been baptized and taught by the two top legends, Dream and Super Dream, and not only successfully awakened the super evolutionary transformation of X form, but also jumped up again. With the level of the peak of the championship, Bai Zi was firmly seated. In the team, the 6 main players hold the top spot. Speaking of which, because of Bai Zi's little wing, the plot of Mewtwo's counterattack, which was originally a theatrical version, disappeared without a trace. Moreover, I don't know how Mewtwo got out of the rockets. According to Shanai Duo, Xiaomeng now lives in seclusion in a place called Clear Cliff, sheltering a lot of replica elves, and has also established a high-tech base with quite complete facilities. Presumably when leaving the rockets, there were many, robbing the rich to help the poor. Yifeng Speed Dog's scent detection skills have also reached the profound level. How should I put it? To give a simple example, its detection range now covers almost a city, and it can even determine the opponent's race and general strength by smell. The skill has reached the mystery level, and it has almost reached the point where it can be inherited as a gene. 1. The giant golden monster was also promoted to the champion level, and even more so, he realized the special combat skills of 4 uses, 4-fold spellcasting. It can be said that it has completely evolved from a battle tank to an artillery battle tank. 1 Laplace and Suicune visited Lugia in various sea areas this time. Among them, Suicune did not receive gifts from the Lugia ethnic group due to his status as a vassal of King Ho, while Laplace, but in this incident, he deeply understood the importance of strength. Therefore, no one refuses to come. With the help of a large number of water attribute treasures, he has completed the same, eating to prove the Tao, as the giant gold monster, and has been promoted to the peak of the king. It is finally held with the other 5 wall-mounted main forces and pulled in. The difference in strength. Moreover, its 2 attribute items were also merged and transformed into a Kobo, Ice Soul Heart, by the god-level Lugia stationed in the Whirlpool Islands. It has a considerable bonus to its combat power, especially the ice attribute. As for the rest of the guys, little has changed. Among them, the most notable is that Ibrahimovic, whose strength has reached the peak of the Quasi-King, has begun to adapt to the attributes of the 4th form. This time it chose the evil attribute. Vizi deeply doubted that this guy chose this attribute for Zoroark's 1.7 reasons. Speaking of which, Lai Kong has also raised his level to the limit of a 1st-level god while sitting against the single brush of Dialuca, and has also realized the 2nd attribute law, Dragon Element. I remember that the Dark Super Dream is superpower plus evil, and the dual law is 100% comprehensible. Maybe. It's time for me to give Lai Kongzai the blood of creation, in the seal orb. In his thoughts, Vizi came to the gate of Dr. Damu's Research Institute. Chapter 336. Strictly guarded, the pre-selection of the Silver Mountain Conference passes. Drops, swipe cards, push doors, climb stone steps. Vizi easily came to the Damu Research Institute located on the hill at the intersection of Junshin Town. It seems very simple. This research institute of the leading elf doctor in the entire elf world seems to be undefended. Ellipsis ellipsis ellipsis. If you really think so, you are dead wrong. Others he does not know. Anyway, Vizi walked all the way, just from the courtyard gate at the foot of the mountain to the Big Wood Research Institute at the top of the mountain. At a distance of 100 meters, he at least felt 5 or 6 obscure gazes, and 2 or 3 mental scans that could be picked up at one touch. At least an elite trainer above the Quasi-King level. If anyone says that the Damu Research Institute is not fortified, I will swell your face. Besides, with such a defensive power, Shaolin can actually steal a Yusan family like no one else. If there's nothing tricky here, I'll make a special trip to Fangyuan to find Groudon and mock it for not being able to fly. Vizi couldn't help but complained in his heart. Click, open the door. He came to the independent O2 office on the 2nd floor, turned it on, entered the password, and retrieved the audio file. Next second, a familiar figure of Dr. Ogi appeared on the screen. There was no worry in his expression at all. On the contrary, he was eating and recording while holding instant noodles in one hand, and the relaxed freehand on his face was almost visible to the naked eye. Vizi, although I'm not sure if you can catch up with the quartz this time. Oh, it should be called the Silver Mountain Alliance Conference, a rare event, but I believe you will be able to return safely. So without further ado, let me explain the specific competition time and rules for this competition. The start time is exactly 9 a.m. on October 15th. What's different from usual is that this time the League Conference has set up a new selection system and added qualifiers. First, let's talk about the qualifiers. On the screen, Dr. Damu drank the last sip of the noodle soup, gudong, wiped his mouth with his sleeve without any image, and pushed back a step. Immediately, a virtual bird's-eye view of Baiyan Mountain appeared on the screen. The lush top view of the huge mountain range spanning the 2 places in Guangdu is marked from top to bottom with 8 lines linked by several red dots. These lines are distributed at 8 points on the periphery of the Baiyan Mountains in an octagonal shape, and finally all converge in the direction of the main peak of the Bayan Mountain. It's different from the pure ring battle in the past. Dr. Ogi continued, with a clear smile and admiration in his tone. This time, I don't know if it was the suggestion that came up. The primary competition system was set to a wild survival plus arena challenge style competition system. Players need to enter the entrance at the foot of the Silver Mountain to complete the report, and then use the staff's pointer to pass through the harsh environment of the Silver Mountain, arrive at the nodes in turn, and complete the challenge, that is, defeat another training who also arrived at the node. Home before entering the next node. Quote, when you pass through all the nodes in a path and reach the top of the Silver Mountain, it is the real venue for the finals of the Alliance Conference. Dr. Damu's tone was obviously excited. To be honest, if I were a few decades younger, I would never miss such an interesting event. Oh, by the way, the battle method of nodes is determined by the challenged. Make sure, 1v1, or 6v6 full battle is alright. Also, on the way to each node, the contestants must not exceed 3 elves for self-defense and use. Once violated, they disqualified from the competition. By Z, there are a lot of powerful elves in the Silver Mountains, and the environment is quite vicious. When you choose the protection elves, don't be too careless. After exhorting one sentence, Dr. Damu's figure reappeared in front of the screen. Okay. The main change of this Silver Mountain League Conference is the pre-selection mechanism. The competition after climbing to the top of the Silver Mountain is no different from the previous year's league competition. The competitions before entering the semi-finals are all 3v3 random field arena matches. The 3 battles after the semi-finals will be 6v6 full battles. Quote, Bai Z, Xiaokai and I are in the Silver Mountains, waiting for your arrival. Dr. Omu gave a thumbs up to the video with an old urchin face, then the screen went black and retracted to the file state. Is it the Battle of the Silver Mountain qualifiers? Interesting. Baizi folded his chest and arms, touched his chin, and revealed a slight smile in his murmur. Baizi knew the dangers of Bayan Mountain without Dr. Damu's special reminder. After all, this is one of the main habitats of the quasi-god group Bangira. Among the 6 known quasi-god families today, Alola has no relationship with the Alliance for the time being, so the swollen head dragon does not count, and the same is true for the Kalal region, which is too far apart and is highly autonomous. Except for hypertrophy and slime Melaranosaurus. 1 counts as 1. All of them are tyrannical lords. And the elves that can survive in the main habitat of the quasi-god group Bangira must have enough strength or uniqueness to protect themselves. It is not easy to get to the node through the territory of these guys. You must know that 450. The elves who survive in the wild are not joking about their importance to their territory. Careless. That is the fierce fighting of your life and death. If you want to rely on the 3 elves to safely reach the node area through these areas, strength, agility, and even wisdom are all indispensable. However, in this way, those trainers from the academy will suffer a big loss. Not sure, not even a single one who passed the preliminaries. With a sneer, Baizi quickly restrained his thoughts, turned off the equipment, and left the Damu Research Institute. Today is October 12th. He should also prepare, and officially set off for Bayan Mountain to participate in this rare event. Crimson, Turquoise, Little Yellow, Alice. Maybe there will be other surprise guys coming. Such a big fight. Just thinking about it makes people feel a little. The blood is boiling. P.S. Quasi-God Group Collection Tilde. Chapter 337. If the spear hits the realm of transformation, the slaying of the gods is also in the palm of your hand. In 3 days, from Junshin Town to the Bayan Mountains at the junction of Kanto and Chengdu, it will naturally not be too rushed in time. Therefore, Baizi was not in a hurry to leave immediately. Instead, he was going to take advantage of the gap in the past few days to hold hands with his own group, and then run in. After all, although he has found out the data panels of all elves, there are some things that he can't make a 3-dimensional judgment and understanding without personally demonstrating and feeling it. After all, there is a saying in Sun Tzu's Art of War, know yourself and your enemy, and you will not be imperiled in 100 battles. Knowing oneself, but also before knowing the enemy. So it can be seen. France is the #1 reason for no danger in 100 battles. Moreover, Baizi wouldn't set foot on the field in a hurry. The situation of Zoroark and the others is almost the same. The only thing left is Shineido's new super evolution. Thinking of Shineido's rare expression of, I want to show you alone, Baizi couldn't help laughing. Soon. When he got home, he said hello to Mei and Lusha Manai who were helping him pack. Baizi went out again. Go to the grove to the south of the house, take out the Pokeball with Shineido, and throw it gently. Sana tilde. In the white light, a slender and graceful lilac figure in a black dress appeared on the grass of the forest, with a light swirl, like a princess. Shineido, let's get started. The eyes full of admiration glanced at Shineido, and Baizi chuckled lightly. Shineido nodded. Immediately. Slowly bowing his head, he crossed his hands across his chest and placed them on his shoulders. Sha tilde ni tilde tilde tilde. A melodious and graceful long chanting sounded, and at this moment, Shineido's body burst into an unprecedented splendid light. This is the light of evolution. Baizi's eyes were full of anticipation, and he took a fancy to Shineido's constantly deforming body in the white light. Soon. The light dissipated, and the brand new Shineido appeared in front of Baizi. And the previous Mega Evolution Y form, the luxurious posture like a princess is completely different. Brand new Super Xanadu X its image. More like a warrior, or a majestic female knight. The fluffy long skirt is no longer. The whole body is wrapped by a layer of dark war skirt similar to armor. The shoulders and waist are similar to the cloak and the hem is a material match. Above the head, there is also a headband in the shape of an inverted trident. Under this layer of cold and solemn upper body armor, there are two slender and white legs that are exposed. Compare with that. In the ferocious pitch-black gauntlet, two chain spears with similar shapes were held on the left and right, exuding a purple-red halo. From the outside, there is a fatal crisis and a sense of charm. And under the complex atmosphere, the awe-inspiring gesture of Ruo Aoshui Hanmei instantly hit some kind of XP of Baizi. Is this what Super Xanadu looks like? An undisguised surprise flashed in Baizi's eyes, and he exclaimed, it's really dazzling. The words fell, and the brilliance flashed in the pupils. Race, Super Shineido Purple Flash, X form, Y form. Attribute, Super Fairy. Feature, Fairy Skin. Level, Quasi-God Elementary, Level 80, Times Form Temporary Amplification, Champion Peak, Level 79, 25/100. Potential, Level 1 God. HP, 168 Attack, 180/100, 65 Defense, 110/100, 65 Special Attack, 135/125 Special Defense, 110/100, 115 Speed, 180. Exclusive skill, Spirit Break. Materialize the magical wave to attack the opponent, inflicting physical damage. Skills, Charming Voice, Cry, Shadow Clone, Mind Power, Hypnosis, Draining Kiss, Teleportation, Illusion Light, Life Water Droplet, Coquetry, Meditation, Spiritual Power, Healing Fluctuation. Genetic skills, Black Eyes, Farewell Gifts. Open Black Lens Bracket Status, Perfect Close Black Lens Bracket. Props, Super Orb Bracelet, World Tree Seed, contains powerful life healing power. Introduction, Leloras, with extraordinary aptitude, is gifted with extraordinary talents and possesses a powerful spiritual power far beyond that of his family. He perfectly integrates the genetic sequences of the two great legends of Dream and Super Dream, thus gaining power and ability beyond the limit. Contains the ultimate power of super evolution. There is no doubt that with the help of super evolution, the evolutionary power that is enough to break through the limits of the race. Shineido broke through the cage. In this way, he directly stepped into the power of the quasi-god realm. Super evolution. It's really a miraculous force enough to cause change. Baizi sighed. He didn't mean to exaggerate at all. Just judging from the degree of strength increase of Shinado, once the super evolutionary power is announced, if nothing else, the strength of the top trainers in the entire elf world will surely usher in changes. Just think. The two champions who were originally on the same level, one of the ace has the power of super evolution, then this strong increase will directly widen the gap between the two. And such a gap will be difficult to make up, because unless the other person's ace also has the potential for hyper-evolution, is it possible to train another ace that can use hyper-evolution? If you do, it's almost starting from scratch. Even if you are experienced and able to quickly develop combat power, as the saying goes, one step at a time, the gap will only widen with the passage of time. Baizi, don't you look at the new strength of the concubine. At this moment, Shineduo's elegant telepathy suddenly rang in his ears. Baizi raised his head. Looking at Shinado, he suddenly laughed lightly, then let me take a look. I'm also curious, what's so unique about these two psychic spears? Without further ado, Shinado suddenly showed a ferocious smirk, spread his palms, and the psychic spear with red-black electric light wrapped around his palms tossed and spun. Afterwards, the body was half spread, catapulted out like a female leopard, and rushed forward like a streamer. Waist twist. A pair of spears were slammed into the void. Hum, a humming sound like a vibration of the air. More than a second. Boom. The roars came one after another, and the sudden burst of purple beams of light broke through the clouds, illuminating the entire forest. If the gun hits the realm of transformation, the slaying of the gods will only be between the palms of the hand. Spiritual break. Gun version. The ultimate hit. P.S. The image of Super Xanadu X, I designed it by combining Heijun and Skaha. This Heijun, in the next chapter, puts Skaha tilde. This chapter contains pictures. Click the illustration button in the lower right corner of the screen to view the picture. Chapter 338. The game begins, the championship declaration. Baiyan Mountain, located at the junction of Kanto and Chengdu, is a forest mountain range with abundant resources. Among them, there is not only the largest group of quasi-gods in the elf world, the Bangira ethnic group, but also the magical hot springs with healing effects. There are all kinds of heaven and earth treasures, and there are countless powerful and precious elf races. In previous years, most of the area of this treasure was under blockade, unless it was an excellent trainer recognized by the Alliance, or a person with a high reputation such as Dr. Damu. Ordinary trainers will not be authorized to open at all. Of course, such a treasure land, it is obviously impossible for those hyena-like elf hunters to turn a blind eye. Even if the Alliance has set up layers of interception and patrols inside and outside the Silver Mountains, it still cannot stop these desperados from flying into the flames. After all, the oil and water of the big fat meat of the Silver Mountains is too much. Even just a sip on the periphery is enough to fill an elite hunter's stomach. Closer to home. Today, it is 8:40 a.m. on October 15th. After Baizi completed the registration, he came to the number 6 entrance of the Baiyan Mountains, which was randomly assigned and crowded with people. Because May and Lusha Manai were not contestants, they boarded the cable car early and went to the top venue of the Silver Mountains to join Dr. Ogi and the others. The entire square in front of the 6 gates is completely paved with 450 turquoise stones. It can be seen from the fine sand and stones oozing from the surface that the completion time is not long. Looking around, there are densely packed figures. Baizi glanced at it roughly. There are at least 1,000 contestants in the number 6 entry. There are a total of 8 competition areas in the Silver Mountains, and there are almost 10,000 contestants. With such a number, I'm afraid it has swept away the trainer opportunities of the younger generation in the entire elf world. Tisk tisk tilde Baizi was speechless. Elves are worthy of being the eternal main body of this world, but the elf eggs, the descendants of the parents of the 3 champions, can attract such a sensation, attracting 70 to 80% of the young trainers in the elf world. It really has to be breathtaking. Poor guys, let's run with them. I hope you won't be beaten by those monsters, and lose your self-confidence. Baizi prayed, in his heart without sincerity. Time passed, and soon, it came to 9 o'clock in the morning. Beep, with the square light on. The cannon rang 3 times and the fireworks ACBH bloomed. On the big screen, dressed in a tuxedo, riding a well-known event commentator of the Union's Royal Self-Exploding Magneto, Caesar appeared. The golden explosion was ahead of schedule, and it is no exaggeration to say that Caesar, who looks strong and powerful, is a fighter. But as the saying goes, people can't be seen. Caesar did not become a fighter or even a trainer, but chose to embark on the civilian commentary path. He has always been observant and has outstanding ability to analyze the battle situation. Became the only 2 male gold medal commentators. Girls and gentlemen, I'm your ace commentator who never tires of watching Caesar, the guests present, and the audience friends in front of the TV and the computer, let you wait. Caesar shouted loudly. I announce that the special event hosted by the Kanto Alliance and jointly provided by the champion Adu and the champion Miss Sharona, the Silver Mountain Alliance Conference, officially opens at this moment. In an instant, cheers pierced into the sky from the audience. Silver Peak, in a VIP room on the 3rd floor of the venue. It started. With the sound of Dr. Ogi's prompt, Ash's mother Hanako, Qinglu Xiaomo's sister Nanami, Mei and Lushamina all turned their eyes to the back of the floor-to-ceiling windows in the VIP room. Where, there is a huge screen divided into several copies, playing the scene of 8 entrances. I remember that Xiao Kai was the number 1 entry, Xiaoji was number 6, and Xiaolu and Xiaomao were number 3 and number 8 respectively. They were basically separated in the preliminary round. Hanako will report what she knows. Afterwards, he turned his head and asked Yayi who was sitting beside him, by the way, Xiao Yayi, what number is Xiaobai getting into? Xiaobai. On the side, Rusumanai looked strange. She really couldn't associate the name, Kawaii, with Baizi. On the other hand, Mei Yi, who has been in contact with him a few times, already knew something, and said honestly, Aunt Hanako, Baizi is also the number 6 candidate. Then isn't it possible to meet Xiao Baizi? Said Dr. Damu, who was sitting alone not far away. Hearing this, Hanako sighed lightly. If we really meet, with Xiaoji's level, I am afraid there is no hope of reaching the top of Baiyan Mountain. No way, Aunt Hanako. With a slightly hesitant expression, Yayi said, as a person like Brother Baizi, you shouldn't take the initiative to eliminate Xiaoji, right? Of course. Seeing this, Hanako burst into laughter and said, can I not know Xiaobai's character? Even in my face, it is impossible to take the initiative to eliminate Xiaoji. My main fear is that our Xiaoji saw Baizi and took the initiative to run up and be eliminated. Ah, this. Mei Yi blinked. She, who is not familiar with Xiaoji, did not know why Aunt Hanako made such a judgment. But there must be a reason for knowing the child, Mo Ruamu, to judge this way, right? On the other hand, Dr. Damu nodded after hearing the words, Hanako is right. According to Xiaoji's character, I am afraid that the first time he sees Baizi, he will go up to challenge. That's why. Hanako sighed and shrugged. And at the same time. Silver Mountain. Number 6. Just as Baizi followed the crowd and slowly walked towards the mountain passage where the fence was removed, a familiar shout suddenly sounded from behind him. Oh, Brother Baizi. Wearing a peaked cap, shoulders against Pikachu, and wearing a blue-gray summer dress, Xiaoji ran towards Baizi's slightly surprised eyes. One click on the brim. Afterwards, he loudly shouted the declaration of winning the championship. Brother Baizi, this time I will definitely defeat you and become the champion of this competition. In an instant, countless attracted attentions bet on Baizi and Xiao on the body of the two of them. Baizi. Why do I think so, and I have eliminated this unfortunate child now. Chapter 339, Qualifiers. No, it's a copy of Silver Mountain. This is, of course, a joke. Although Baizi doesn't like to attract attention for no reason, with his current strength, he doesn't care too much about the search or hostility in the eyes of others. Or, since he chose to participate in this event, isn't it right that he is attracting attention? Then, you should work hard first, stand in front of me and talk about it. Saying that, Baizi gave Xiaoji a head-scratcher in front of him, and when the other party called, "Ouch!" ignoring all the sights betting on him, he stepped straight into the Silver Mountains. As a trainer, the pursuit of the strongest and the pinnacle is the wish of almost everyone. And if you say that Han wearing a hat is just outspoken. Baizi's indifferent response gave them an inexplicable sense of looking down. This sentence is like saying, "Those who can't stand in front of me are not qualified to win the championship." Close black lens bracket, I dare to say. At this moment, almost everyone in the number 6 venue remembered Baizi, this amazing silver-haired boy. As for Xiaoji, looking at the face of the other party, no one would think that this would be a rival. Therefore, he quickly ignored his existence and focused on Baizi. And the same. Compared with the other 7 entries, they entered the arena step by step. The small commotion at the entrance of number 6 naturally attracted the attention of the director, who focused the camera on Xiaoji and Baizi. Oh, someone at the number 6 venue has issued a declaration of champion and victory. Let's take a look at their basic information. With Caesar's enthusiastic host voice, the big screen above his head was divided into 2. The appearance and basic information of Baizi and Xiaoji emerged respectively. The basic information is displayed separately. Baizi, a true Newtown native, the initial elf Bumblebee, a rookie trainer, the first time to participate. Xiaoji, a native of Junxin Town, the initial elf Pikachu, a rookie trainer, first time participating, so these 2 players are from Junxin Town. After discovering that he was a player from his own area, the host Caesar's voice was much more subconsciously kind. According to the data, players Baizi and Xiaoji are both rookie trainers who only started this year. In other words, they have been less than 9 months since they became trainers. Being able to complete the challenge of 8 gym badges in the first year of debut, obviously these 2 players are quite good trainers, but unfortunately. Caesar's words were not finished, but everyone present, including the audience in front of the TV and the computer, understood the unfinished meaning of the host's words. Although these 2 players can be called excellent, this time the game covered ages under 25 years old. At most, nearly 10 years of training time can be added. Under such a gap in time accumulation, even if these 2 rookie trainers are excellent, they are still too tender. Thinking of this, many audience members couldn't help but talk about it. After all, most of the audience at the venue were local Kanto audiences, and the genius of their own trainers would be bullied by veterans from other regions. Thinking about it, it was somewhat unpleasant. The noisy discussions gathered together and suddenly turned into boiling noises. When Caesar, the host, saw this, he quickly changed the topic loudly and said, "Speaking of which, this Baizi player is really a talent. He has a bit of style like when I was young, don't you think?" With his words, the director winked and put Baizi's makeup photo on the big screen. It looks like a perfect face carefully carved by a skilled craftsman. The soft and fine silver hair is slightly swaying, and the blue eyes that are revealed are like hazy clouds overflowing. I have to say that this appearance alone quickly attracted the attention of most people and made the scene quiet a lot. And then, Shish 1-1. Huge boos came from above the venue. Baizi naturally didn't know that his photos would be used as a tool for the host to save the scene. At this point, he has entered the competition area through one of the channels of the entrance. On the right wrist, it is tied with an electronic device similar to a wristwatch. The thing in his hand is a special device that integrates positioning, calling for help, and protection. Every contestant will be given one. The configuration of this thing is very simple, a quick screen, and the red button below the screen. The blue triangle on the screen represents his own position, and the red dot represents the first node he needs to reach. Just reach the first node and complete the challenge to light up the second node. And so on, after all the nodes are lit up, and the venue at the top of the silver mountain is reached, the preliminaries will be considered complete. And if you press the button, this seemingly inconspicuous little thing will release an energy shield that is strong enough to resist the powerful attack of the Quasi-King. And release the signal to call the Union staff on standby to go to the rescue. Of course. Pressing this button also means that this game, you have chosen. Abstain. Come out. After a little thought, Baizi released Zeraora. Then, quite purposefully, he walked towards the mountain forest on the left. If you look at the display of the electronic map of the watch, Baizi completely deviates from the direction towards the node. He was not wrong. Trying to avoid trouble and consumption, reaching the node in the shortest time is indeed the best option for the vast majority of contestants. 0. Ask for flowers. But for Baizi, the large number of high-level elves that exist in the Silver Mountains is a fairly high-quality leveling point. Zeraora lost more than a month of training and improvement time because of traveling through time and space with herself. So that the level was surpassed by the other members of the team again and again, and Baizi saw all the boredom and unwillingness in his eyes. The system notification sound caused by sneaking up late at night to train and fight could not be concealed from Baizi. Not to mention. Back then, Crimson and Qinglu secretly competed with him, and ran out to find legendary elves and phantom beasts. This is the embodiment of unyielding. Again, it's a challenge. They are all guys who are unwilling to fall into the hands of others. If Baizi can do it, they will force themselves to do it too. When it comes to the arena, it is to use phantom beasts against phantom beasts, legends against legends. This silent challenge, needless to say, Baizi is well aware of it. 0. Whether Qinglu can find the Eudemons and subdue it is irrelevant. But the Crimson Deoxys had already reached the level of the pinnacle of Heavenly Kings more than a month ago. And to this day, it is very likely that he has broken through the realm of the king and has been promoted to the champion level. In a total of 24 hours, we need to upgrade from the elementary Heavenly King to the champion rank, and we have to find time to light up the nodes. There is a long way to go. Having said that, there was no sadness on Baizi's face. After all, in addition to the Heavenly Dao rewards system, he had already made all preparations, and he also specially equipped Zeraora with a special piece of equipment. Speaking of which, I'm not cheating, right? Muttering, Baizi glanced at the flight monitor flying towards him not far away, and exchanged glances with Zeraora. In the next second, one person and one pet rushed into the depths of the jungle. Although he has made plans to show most of the elves one by one in the arena, there are some things that he is not ready to expose in front of everyone. The thorns seem to be leaking electricity, and the flight monitor, which was about to catch up according to its positioning, suddenly burst into a burst of smoke and electric sparks. Soon, it staggered and fell to the ground. Without waiting for the second monitor to fly, in a blink of an eye, Baizi, with a fox-like smile on his face, emerged from the woods again. P.S. Xiaogang and Xiaosha were ignored in the last chapter. Sorry, everyone just pretended that the two of them were in the box. A few. Chapter 340. The winner is, the Red of the True New Town. Zeraora, use Thunder Fist. Ow. Somewhere in the depression of the Silver Mountains, Zeraora flew up, saving money like a bow, leaping down like a thunder, punching heavily, hitting a copy of the green mosquito-repellent Frog King. Kwa, the mosquito-repellent Frog Emperor was heavily knocked out dozens of meters away, and after a while, he climbed up from the silt. You command Zeraora to leapfrog to defeat the mosquito-repellent Frog King, gain a little, battle +5, Zeraora's experience value +35, lightning fist proficiency. Thank you for your hard work, Mosquito Coil Frog Emperor. With the sound of the system prompt, Baizi suddenly smiled, waved his hand, and sent a special water attribute energy cube in the direction of the mosquito-repellent incense Frog Emperor, this is the energy cube promised to you, please keep it. 450, quack tilde. The mosquito-repellent frog emperor rubbed the charred marks on his stomach, but there was no anger on his face. The baby took the energy cube, chewed one in his mouth, and immediately narrowed his eyes with a look of enjoyment. Sure enough, this method is used correctly. Baizi's mouth twitched, obviously very satisfied. Wild elves. Especially the wild elves who rarely see human trainers, the battles between them are almost all life and death battles. Therefore, rushing to fight is very likely to eventually evolve into a desperate battle. Although Baizi is not afraid of the battle of his life. But not necessary. He is just to gain experience, and he doesn't have to spend time and effort with these elf overlords who live deep in the Silver Mountains. Wouldn't it be better to negotiate the conditions in advance and achieve a win-win situation? And the special energy cube made by him, no elf can refuse. Dragon King crooked his mouth. JPG. Goodbye, Mosquito Coil Frog King. Wow tilde. Mosquito Incense Frog Emperor. Remember to come often if you need it tilde. After saying goodbye to the reluctant Mosquito Incense Frog Emperor, Baizi glanced at Zeraora beside him. This is already the 5th battle. Among them, the weakest is a middle-level Boscodora, and the strongest is the mosquito-repellent Frog King just now. It is the lord of this depression, level 69, and is only one step away from being promoted to the champion. 5 fights in a row. And it's all about, the weak wins the strong. But at this time, Zeraora did not show any signs of fatigue, and his body was even more unscathed. And the reason for this is entirely due to the spar armor it wears. This thing is the power amplification device that Baizi asked Shabo to use the power core spar in his hand to create. The function is very simple. Amplify the electricity in Zeraora's body, so that its strength bursts into a power close to the champion level in a short period of time. Perverted enough, isn't it? But that's all in exchange for the lifespan of the item. The powerful power boosting effect will deplete its main, power core spar, every minute and every second. Baizi roughly estimated. It will probably be able to support Zeraora to fight for 7 or 8 hours, and the power supply of this spar armor will be exhausted. And this is just a bonus to combat power. At the neckline of the spar armor, in the drop-shaped groove, there are seeds exuding green light, which are embedded in it. This is the World Tree Seed, temporarily borrowed from Shinado, which has powerful healing properties. It is another great guarantee of Zeraora. Next, _. After leaving the Mosquito Incense Frog Emperor's territory, Baizi, who was about to use his superpowers to search for the next sparring, was suddenly stunned. Your Ibrahimovic defeated Onplus's Great Sword Demon, and gained a little experience value +1, lightning flash proficiency +1. With the sudden system notification sound, Baizi raised his eyebrows slightly, glanced at the empty right wrist, and chuckled. It seems that Zoroark is also doing well. Let's speed up too, Zeraora. Ow tilde. A low hum followed. Soon, in a valley about several kilometers away from this place, a blue thunderstorm erupted in an instant. Time passed by minute. Evening. Just when Baizi was sitting alone in the Silver Mountains and brushing the dungeon, 0. After a day of competition. The vast majority of the scumbags have been eliminated. There are only less than 1/10 of the remaining trainers who are still moving forward. Same. The gold, hidden in the gravel are gradually blooming, each showing their own style. 1. The 5th node. Pika tilde chu. Accompanied by the cute cry of Ruanmeng, a yellow-skinned mouse curled up in midair, and a surging thunderlight instantly linked to the thundercloud above the battle platform. Click, 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 thunderbolt. A thunder beam with a diameter of several meters suddenly smashed down. Boom! After the deafening muffled sound, the temporary ring, which was completely paved with bluestone, was immediately chopped in half. At the center of the lightning strike, a pit that was several meters deep was cut out. PFFT tilde. On the opposite side, The hot monkey standing next to the pothole could not see any violent temper. He was completely trembling and looked like he was walking on thin ice. And the trainer behind it was equally sluggish. Until the moment when he accidentally met the indifferent young man with dark red eyes on the opposite side. 1.7 inches awe. In an instant, he ran away, hugging his head and crying as if he had seen a ghost. Afterwards, the hot monkey who was awakened quickly followed, as if it were escaping. So terrifying tilde the trainers who watched the battle were also frightened. The referee as a staff member couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat that did not exist on his forehead, and announced with a trembling voice, "Victory, the winner is, the Red of Junshin Town."